there for water purification that I would like to focus on. Let me share my presentation. Share screen. The file is already open. Why I'm not getting it? Just a minute.
There may be too many files. If there are too many files open in a desktop, then somebody doesn't detect.
Yeah. Just a minute. It is in full screen.
Actually, what happened that when you shared, it is in this mode, and then you made it to full screen. So it is advisable that you first stop sharing and make the presentation in full mode and then share in the full mode.
Causes and how to analyze what are the contaminants in it in the qualitative manner as well as in the quantitative manner, and how we can remove these contaminants from our water. So this is the basic talk. So the contents of today's talk will be what are the different sources of water, what are the factors which are affecting its quality, and how we are getting the pollutants entry in the raw water, like in water resources like river, ponds, or whatever are the natural resources, how they are getting contaminated and with what material they are getting contaminated, how much important it is to control all these factors because it is affecting our day-to-day life. And most of the diseases, whatever we are facing nowadays, it is because of something common which is being consumed by all of us, like it is water or air quality or the common vegetables. So something common factor is there which is actually controlling the today's life, and whatever diseases and problems we are facing in daily life is because of this. So we should take some major step in controlling the quality of these things which we are commonly consuming and which is essential for life. So all those things we are going to discuss in today's talk. We are going to talk about the different parameters, what are their acceptable limits, and how we can analyze those parameters. So let us start with the water, which is the most important and essential part of our life. We generally say that most of the earth, majority of the earth's surface is covered with water, which is around 70%. But actually out of this 70%, only 0.3% of water is usable water. So it is of utmost importance how we can keep this 0.3%, which is very little percentage out of the total quantity which is available, how we should procure those things and preserve those things for our remaining life. So water is also the creator of life and it is most important part. So we should take all important measures to protect it. There are three sources of water majorly. First is the surface water, groundwater, and reclaimed water. Surface water is the source for drinking water, which includes our lakes, rivers, canals, runoff water, and the impounding water, what we are using to store in our premises. So the water quality conditions in streams and rivers can change dramatically over a short period of time because of the nature. Its quality is changing. If suppose there are heavy rains, then there is flood in water, and the quality of water in that river or open water body changed according to the natural conditions. So at every moment of time, we have to keep a check on quality of that water, what is being supplied to us as a drinking water, from its source as well as from where we are receiving. So that is covered in surface water. Groundwater sources are beneath the land surface and include springs and wells. Groundwater that is contaminated with organic chemicals tends to be enriched in aromatic derivatives relative to other organic chemical constituents. It is of major concern nowadays because we are using lot of fertilizers and chemicals in our agriculture and in our daily life. Like pesticides we are using in very high percentage. And all those things are getting, along with water, is being soaked in the ground. And when we are digging out water from beneath the surface, then these chemicals are coming in there. And because of this reason only, we have to keep a check on groundwater also. Then third water is reclaimed water. That is, reclaimed water sources include desalination of the brackish water or seawater and reuse or recycling of the wastewater through the application of appropriate treatment technology. So from any resources we are getting water, but its quality is of very much importance. And then all the sources are getting polluted nowadays. None of the water is safe, or we can't say that if we are getting water from this resource, its quality is 100% sure. So anyway, we have to check the quality. And this fresh water is really a scarcity nowadays. And somehow, in some manner, we are getting it clean, either at a household level or at a mass level. But the quality of this water has to be controlled. Now, what do you mean by water pollution? It is a qualitative term that describes a situation when the level of contamination is quite more than the acceptable limit. Contaminants are always there, but if it is below the acceptable limits, okay, our body can tolerate it. But when the level of that contamination raises, then it really causes a lot of diseases. So that is a qualitative term. Generally, we used to call them as polluted water, but actually it requires a quantitative estimation, because 0% contamination is not at all possible. Like there is no microbial count, or there are no heavy metals, or no bacteria or microbes are there. But still, if it is in the acceptable range, it is quite okay. So rather than a qualitative term, we should go for a quantitative identification of these parameters to control the quality. So water pollution is generally induced by humans. It results from actions of humans carried on to better self. It has a dual effect of nature. It has negative effects on the living and also on the environment. So the basic reason for all these pollutants or increase in pollution level or contamination level is all the actions which is carried out by us. And it's not only our ignorance, but the most important cause is, the basic cause is increase in population. When population is high, we need more resources to overcome the requirement of by this population. And to overcome their requirement, sometimes we may use some wrong resources, and because of that thing only, these pollutants are including in our daily life. So these undesirable chemicals, biological contaminants, suspended solids, gases, other industrial and human waste from water is needed to be removed from the water in any case. The growth of human population, as I already discussed, is the major source. The growth of human population, industrial and agriculture practices is the major cause of pollution. Water pollution becomes worse as a result of overcrowding in the urban areas. So it can be contaminated by the following agents. Pathogens, which is of major concern. The disease-causing organisms that include bacteria, amoebas, and viruses, as well as the eggs and larvae of parasitic worms. From the human excreta, as the population is too high in urban areas, it is overcrowding. So their excreta and household waste, it is imparted in our water resources. And because of that thing, these disease-causing organisms from all these contamination sources, these disease-causing organism becomes part of our water, which is supplied as a drinking water. So these pathogens are really harmful. Then the harmful chemicals from human activities like industrial waste, pesticides, and fertilizers. It is again a major concern. Just to improve the yield, we are using a lot of fertilizers and pesticides in our agriculture activities nowadays. And all these pesticides remain adhered to the final product, as well as the excess of these fertilizers and pesticides, which are water soluble, are getting drained through water and then gets inside the earth's surface. And from that, it is again coming mixing in our drinking water. So this pesticide level and fertilizers level, these chemicals are really, really very harmful. And we have to take some major step to protect ourselves from taking these pesticides. Then chemicals, and it is again, why we are using these pesticides? Just to improve the yield of our agriculture, which is required by our population. So somewhere we are moving to fulfill the requirement of our requirement of the humans. But on the other hand, just to fulfill the requirement and just for our self-interest, we are exploiting the things, and that is only harming ourselves, our quality of life. So somewhere some balance has to be managed. So chemicals and minerals from the natural environment, such as arsenic, common salt, and fluorides. It is again the one of the contaminant. The major sources of surface water contamination are from construction, municipalities, agricultural resources, extraction, production, and industry. The sum of the sources of water pollution are, we have already discussed, household waste like vegetables, fruit peel, meat waste, paper, glass, metals, plastics, textiles. These are all the household waste which can impart impurities, contamination to water. The animal waste, that is animal feces, waste from milk production, slaughterhouse, pastures, etc. Then sewage leakages. It is again a source of water contamination, which is a very common source. Sometimes we may realize this thing in rainy season or when some pipeline breakage is there. Then we got some even solid particles also in our water supply, which we are getting. So it is all because of sewage leakage. When water pipes are broken and it is underground and some sewage line is also going across it, then leakage can occur in our water pipeline also. So this is again a major cause. Then high population density, which is the base of all those things, oil spillage, industrial waste dumped into the waters, radioisotopes, heavy metal combustion, toxic waste disposal at sea. So waste management system is very stringent, and their norms are also very stringent nowadays, especially in the pharmaceutical industry. The disposal of their waste material is a big concern. And all those pharmaceutical moieties which is coming as a byproduct, if it is disposed of in a local water body, open water body, then that antibiotics, residual byproducts are there mixed in the water body, and it is being supplied to whole of the village or the remote area. So a strict check is there. Still the norms are there, but still these practices are being followed. So some more major stringent actions has to be taken. Now the agriculture waste like pesticides and herbicides, then flooding during rainy season, which carries waste deposit into waters. It is again a source of contamination. Mineral processing plant, so the exudate or the waste from that plant is again a source of contamination. Eroded sediments, deforestation, mining, littering. See, there are all common resources which we know about these resources. These are causing high level of contamination, but still major steps has to be taken. And if we can't stop it, at least whatever water we are taking, consuming, we should have a check over it, or we should have some method to remove that, to these contaminants, and to control the water quality. So water pollution, how it is affecting, what are the ways in which it is affecting our life? Like it has a drastic effect on human health. Water pollution causes approximately 14,000 deaths per day and contamination of drinking water by untreated sewage in developing countries, which is very serious issue. 14,000 deaths per day is not a less number. Just now we come up with corona, and that death rate with corona, everyone is fearing about that death rate, and we are talking a lot about that thing. But see, there are so many routine causes which is resulting in more mortality than corona, but we are giving less importance to those issues. One of that is water pollution. Like waterborne pathogens in the form of disease causing bacteria and viruses from human and animal waste are the major cause of illness from contaminated drinking water. The disease spread by unsafe water include cholera, giardia, and typhoid, skin rashes, pink eye, respiratory infections, and hepatitis, and many more. Like the list is long. These are the common diseases which generally spread by unsafe water. The poor quality water destroys the crop production and infects food, which is hazardous for aquatic life and human life also. Because of this contaminated water, many of the aquatic animals get extinct, and many of the herbs which grows in water, that becomes extinct because of these contaminants. High heavy metal levels in water important. Now, metal contaminated water leads to hair loss, liver cirrhosis, renal failure, and neural disorders. So these are the things which is getting affected on human health. Its effect on environment also. Healthy ecosystem rely on a complex web of animals, plants, bacteria, and fungi, all of which interact directly or indirectly with each other. Harm to any of these organisms can create a chain effect and impairing entire aquatic environment. So like plants nutrients, including nitrogen, phosphorus, and other substances that support the growth of aquatic plant life could be in excess, causing algal bloom and excessive weed growth. And see, it seems that it is not a big issue, but if too much of algae grows in any of the water body, then it consumes most of the oxygen from it, and it reduces the oxygen level in that water. And once the oxygen level excess of minerals or heavy metals, these algae get grow in that. And because of excessive growth of such algae, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, audible.
Okay. So because of excessive growth of such algae or such undesirable plants, the oxygen level reduces. So we should take care. Its effect on the Just if I put my bar here, then the effect of such things on aquatic ecosystem. Polluted water resources, this is the next point. Polluted water reduces dissolved oxygen content, thereby eliminates the sensitive organism like plankton and mollusks and fish, etc. The biocides, polychlorinated biphenyls, and heavy metals directly eliminates sensitive constituents in our fertilizers and pesticides. Polychlorinated biphenyls. The hot water discharge from industries, when added to water bodies, it also lowers the dissolved oxygen content in it. So fourth point is like biomagnification. When many contaminated organisms are consumed by second organism that can neither metabolize nor excrete the substance, the concentration of that substance will build to even higher levels in the second organism. The effect is magnified at each successive trophic level, and the process is called biological magnification. So whatever we are consuming as a non-veg food, if the heavy metal content in that is already high and it is being consumed by second level and not getting metabolized, then in second trophic level, it is magnified to a manifold extent. Eutrophication. Eutrophication. Can anyone tell me what is eutrophication? This is the biggest challenge in online talk. We should not ask questions from participants.
True. That's true.
Okay, no problem. Eutrophication. So we can ask this thing in your
Yes.
test.
Yes. Included.
Right. So when water pollution causes an algal bloom, just now I explained you, in a lake or marine environment, the proliferation of newly introduced nutrients stimulates plant and algae growth, which in turn reduces the oxygen level in water. And when the oxygen level comes below the average one, or very low oxygen level is there and it is not supporting any life growth in that, at that stage it is known as eutrophication. This death of oxygen is known as eutrophication. It suffocates plant and animals and can create dead zones where waters are essentially devoid of life. So this is a new term, but generally we have seen this thing practically in many areas, but we couldn't understand what can be the reason behind it. It is just because of the excess growth of unwanted plants, which is consuming most of the oxygen. And all of a sudden we are realizing that sometimes before, like last year, a lot of animals are there when we visit this place, but now less number of animals are there at all. That species is totally extinct. So it may be the reason behind it. So if we talk about the impurities, basically there are 3 types of impurities in water. It may be a dissolved impurity, suspended impurity, or the living matter. The dissolved impurities are organic matters like humic and fulvic acids, pesticides, detergents. The fertilizers which run off from the agriculture fields, mostly they contain phosphates, nitrates, and sulfates. These are the dissolved chemical compounds which causes impurity, which remain as a impurity, dissolved impurity in water. Now there are several suspended impurities like organic and inorganic colloidal materials. It may be clay, paste, some acids, sand particles, industrial or domestic byproduct. These are the suspended impurities. it is easy to remove these suspended impurities from water. But then also it is actually adding cost to our water. So, but there are many suspended impurities also. The third level of impurity is living matter, which include microorganisms. Microorganisms are larger life forms and the gas. Bacteria, algae, viruses. Now, iron bacteria in ferruginous wells and iron pipes, or sulfur bacteria in anaerobic conditions. So many kinds of microorganisms are there. There are certain macroorganisms like fish, screens, worms. Their fossils may be there, or their skeleton may be there in the water as a contaminant. The larger life forms like fish, newts, worms, etc. can be the form of contaminants. And there is oxygen and carbon dioxide occurs in all natural water. So these are all the impurities, and their level has to be, we can't get a water totally devoid of these impurities, but their level should be in the acceptable range. Now there are many methods by which we can purify our water. So water purification is the process of removal of contaminants from raw water to produce drinking water for industrial use. The undesirable chemicals, biological contaminants, suspended solids, gases, other industrial and human waste from water is needed to be removed from water. Many contaminants can be dangerous, but depending on the quality standards, others are removed to improve the water's smell, taste, and appearance. The standard limits of water quality has been already set by the government, and every contaminant has its own method of detection and unit of measure. Mainly there are two types of water purification, or there are basically water is divided into two categories. Or its purification method can be divided into two categories. Like one is drinking water treatment and one is wastewater treatment. From the term itself, it is very obvious the difference between these two. Drinking water treatment is more precise, like directly from the wastewater, we can't get the drinking water. But if we are getting the water supply from either from municipality or from some river or open water body directly, then the treatment is to be done, which will bring that water, which will bring all the parameters, all the dissolved water, solutes in it, or its TDS, or its microbial count, to that extent which is acceptable for drinking water level. And if we want to treat the wastewater treatment has to be set up, then the industry, depending upon the waste from where we are getting, like from which industry, if it is a pharmaceutical industry, then its waste may contain some antibiotics or some other chemical moiety which is having some medicinal effect in it, or its sulfur content may be high. If it is a leather industry, then the waste of that leather industry may contain some other contaminants. So depending upon the waste or from where we are getting that waste, we have to set up that wastewater treatment plant. So generally the treatments, water purification treatments are categorized into two manner. One is drinking water treatment plant and another is wastewater treatment plant. In the drinking water treatment, the water has to be collected from their original sources, such as rivers or reservoirs, and purify them under the applicable quality standards followed by the environmental protection license. And in the wastewater treatment, the wastewater from the industrial process should be collected and purified before releasing it to different environments, such as surface waters, lands for irrigation purpose, or for marine coastal areas, etc. So before discharging it to the open environment, we have to get it treated. And it all depends what type of treatment we have to give based on the type of contaminant present in that wastewater. There are several methods by which we can purify water. The commonest method is filtration. I think being Jain, I am using this practice in our daily life, routine basis. Like it is a simple cloth by which we used to filter our water daily. But the biggest drawback or the shortcoming of this method is with the help of that cloth, we can remove only the suspended material or the insoluble impurities present in it, not the soluble one. But that's why it is important that what quality of cloth we are using. मतलब प्रैक्टिस में तो ये है कि बस पानी छान के पीना है, बट पानी छान के पीना है, छन्ने की क्या क्वालिटी है, वो जो अपन कपड़ा यूज कर रहे हैं जिससे छानते हैं घर में, जिस कपड़े से आप पानी छानते हैं, उस कपड़े की क्वालिटी के ऊपर कोई ध्यान नहीं दे रहा है और उस कपड़े की सफाई के ऊपर कोई ध्यान नहीं दे रहा है, बस पानी छान के पीना है, ये एक पर्पज रहता है. बट एक्चुअली ये कंसेप्ट वैसे आया था कि जो वो कपड़े की क्वालिटी रहती है, जो छन्ना हम लोग यूज करते हैं, वो इतना थिक क्लॉथ होता है कि द पोर साइज ऑफ दैट इज इवन स्मॉलर देन 0.3 माइक्रोन, which is able to filter out all the bacterial count from it. But then too, the eggs or the smaller things can come out of that cloth, and that's why the life of that water is generally termed as 4 hours only. इसलिए अगर कोई जैन कम्युनिटी से वेलवर्स होगा तो ऐसा कहा जाता है कि हर 4 घंटे में आपको पानी छान के पीना है, क्योंकि उसमें ऐसी चीजें फिल्टर हो रही हैं जो 4 घंटे में फिर से उसका बैक्टीरियल काउंट बढ़ जाता है. तो अगेन यू हैव टू फिल्टर इट आउट. सो दैट इज अ बेसिक प्रिंसिपल विच इज जनरली यूज्ड इन आवर हाउसेस, फिल्ट्रेशन. बट ये तो एक घर में यूज करने का तरीका हो गया. अदरवाइज नाउ इट इज वेरी हाई लेवल फिल्टर्स आर अवेलेबल विथ विच water can be filtered out and can be purified to a very high extent. So this is one technique, filtration. Sedimentation is another, boiling, disinfection, adsorption, pH adjustment is one more technique. Reverse osmosis, there are many herbal methods which we are going to focus today. Herbs are used to remove the contaminants, mainly the microbial count. Biotechnological methods are there, catalytic processes are there. Then there are many membranes are being used to purify water. Ionizing radiation processes are used, and then magnetically assisted processes are also used. But all these processes has got some of the limitations and some of the advantages. So in our research work, like in our department, we are focusing on developing a method for water purification which will really flawless, have minimum of the limitations, and which can impart some of medicinal property also to water, and to improve the life of that water. Life of that water means at least for 24 hours, if we can have that water which will maintain all parameters in the drinkable range, then it is this is our target right now. So our lab is working on that, and we are basically working on some herbal methods or some herbs along with their extracts or as a crude material, and a combination of some of the things which will readily cover all aspects of water purification, like microbial count is one thing, and heavy metal content is another, and the removal of these pesticides as a sediment. This is our approach. So now let us deal with one method. First method we have already discussed in detail, that is filtration. It is the process of removing. It is the process of removing or reducing the concentration of particulate matter, including suspended particles. The biggest limitation of this method is only the suspended things. The undissolved things can be removed with this method. The parasites, bacteria, algae, viruses, and fungi, as well as other undesirable chemicals and biological contaminants from the contaminated water to bring it in a safer level. But only the undissolved things. What about the dissolved impurities? All those things will be filtered out. Whatever high level of filter we can use, even 0.33 micron filter, even what we are using in our HPLC. I think most of the audience are from pharmaceutical background. And we have used HPLC. Everyone has used it. So even in HPLC, if we are using 0.45 micron filter, but with that size also, the dissolved impurities, our buffers get filtered. So filtration doesn't take care of dissolved impurities. This is the limitation of this thing. And if you are using very high quality filters, then it will add enormous cost to our water, which we want to drink and which is indispensable. You can't have any alternate for water. So that should not be very costly. But filtration, if we are using high quality filters, it will add on to cost. Second method can be sedimentation. Sedimentation occurs when, what is sedimentation? It is when particles in suspension settle out of the fluid in which they are entrained and come to rest against a barrier, which is typically the basement of the waterway. So settling is due to the motion of the particles through the fluid in response to forces acting on them. This is the basic theory how sedimentation is happening. But generally, it is again for the suspended things. And if some heavier particles are there, particulate matter, then it gets sediment with time. Or if you want to convert the dissolved material into a sediment, then again we have to add some chemical which will bring out, react with the dissolved salts and bring them into a insoluble form. So again, for sedimentation also, if we are removing the dissolved solids with the process of sedimentation, then we have to add some chemicals. And I feel in any way, if we are adding any chemicals from outside, and that will be the part of that water which we are consuming, then at some time it will be harmful. So it is better to avoid use of any type of chemicals, which is not natural. So third method can be distillation. This is a safe method. The process in which the water is heated at boiling temperature level to remove the solid particles is known as distillation. Generally, we follow this method also in daily practice. Like we used to boil water. So the boiling of water does two things. First, it will kill all the microbes in it. And secondly, whatever salts are there, dissolved salts are there, on boiling, it gets settled down. But when the water gets cooled down, all those salts make the precipitate. So this is one method. But with this method, it changes the taste of water, and it is very time-consuming method. So this may be the limitation of this, but still it is very useful method. The fourth method can be the adsorption. It is the process that occurs when a gas or liquid solute accumulates on the surface of a solid or a liquid, forming a molecular or atomic film. Depending on the type of attraction between adsorbate and adsorbent, the adsorption can be divided into two types. It can be chemical or physical adsorption, which is known as physioabsorption or chemiabsorption. See, we all are from pharmacy background, I consider. So these terms we are well versed with these terms, and we don't need any explanation for these things. Basically, we have used charcoal as a adsorption tool, charcoal powder for purification. And nowadays it comes in a RO technology also, that there is one charcoal in most of the water purifier. They are using one column which is filled with charcoal. And that when water passes through that charcoal column, the charcoal absorbs most of the impurities dissolved in the water. So adsorption is another one method, but still it is not 100% clean the water. So it is not fully 100% satisfaction is not there after using this water. Just a minute, how my screen get bigger. The next method can be reverse osmosis. This is how we are using nowadays at every home. We are using RO and we know how it functions. But can anyone of you can tell me what is the side effect of using RO in our daily life? Okay. So I think RO is removing most of the important minerals also from water, which is required for our body. And because of that thing, nowadays doctors started suggesting not to use this water, which is having very low TDS value, because when the TDS gets down, the taste of water is improving. But all those minerals which is removed and which is imparting good taste, but that is really harmful. It is essential for our body and it is causing a lot of diseases in our body. So we should, doctors are avoiding nowadays this RO water. There may be many more techniques like biotechnologically techniques are there for water purification. In case of water purification, for degradation of organic pollutants, biologically active carbon biofilm capable of degrading a significant fraction of entrapped waterborne nutrients and dissolved organic matter adsorbed on granular activated carbon surfaces and other contaminants can be used. Now, catalytic technology is there, which processes for oxidation or reduction of both organic and inorganic pollutants are widely adopted. Solar assisted oxidation, photo assisted oxidation, heterogeneous catalytic ozonation, electrocatalysis, photoelectrocatalysis process, and photoelectrophantom process applications are a few areas of catalytic applications to water purification. Chlorination is another method. It is used in the purification of drinking water as a disinfectant and is also used as bleach. Adding sodium hypochlorite to water for killing of bacteria as SHS is highly toxic and kills them easily is called chlorination. But see, the effect of chlorination is if you add extra of such agent which is having bactericidal action, then in some manner it is affecting our cells also. So generally we in many cases we use fitkari alum to purify water. Just we rotate a piece of alum in our container in which we store our water. But it is not a quantitative technique. Now, if we are making 2-3 balls of that alum, then more of the alum get dissolved, and that alum, when consumed by that is a method of chlorination. Hypochlorite only it is there in alum, which is used to purify water. But if we are consuming it in a higher concentration, it may break even our blood vessels, damage our blood vessels. So it is not a advisable thing to use such things in a non-quantitative manner. So use of any chemical, any external reagent to purify water and to consume it on a daily basis is not at all advisable. So that's why we should come out with a technique which is based on natural resources so that if we are consuming it, then it is not causing any harm to our normal health. So that is the basic reason why everyone is shifting on herbs and the use of different extracts of herb as a water purifier or as a disinfectant. That is the reason. Then another technique can be the deionization. This refers to a chemical method of purification which removes ionic contaminants in water. As water is made to pass over the ion exchange resin, cations and anions react with that resin and exchange to hydrogen ions and hydroxyl ions. This is again a good technique. But again, with the use of this deionization, most of the minerals get removed from water, which is supplemented after purification. तो अभी ऐसा हो गया है कि water purification मतलब water purifier becomes a big science where first you eliminate everything from water, then you add on those things to water which is required for our body. And then removing is again adding cost to water, and adding on those minerals is again adding cost to water. So it becomes a business. Another technique is photooxidation. Photochemical oxidation uses UV radiation. This is again a good method, but it is not 100% proof. So but it is again a good method. So let us come out. What are the disadvantages of chemical water purification methods? I think I have discussed along with the method, but still the biggest disadvantage is if we are using any type of chemical to purify water, then whatever thing we are using as a water purifier, where to dispose of those things? Because that contains all the contaminants. Now to dispose of those things in atmosphere, in environment, again causing a big issue. Coagulation and flocculation, this is the main disadvantage. It requires ejection of non-reusable chemicals, that is a coagulants, flocculants, add chemicals, and physicochemical monitoring of the effluent. If we are using such things to control water quality, then physicochemical monitoring of the effluent, that is such like pH, all those things has to be monitored time to time, because whatever chemicals we are using, they are being consumed and then they stop working on that thing in that fashion. Once it is fully used, then they stop working. Then whatever output we are using, what is the quality of that output? Once it stops working, that we have to keep on checking time to time. So increased sludge volume generation or low removal of arsenic, these are the some disadvantages of chemical if we are using a coagulant as a water purifier. Then adsorption and filtration, if we are using as a water purification technique, then it is relatively very high investment, cost of material, non-destructive process, non-selective method. Means if we are using some filter of low size, its pore size is very low, then if something important is there which we wish it should remain in water, but it will also be removed because that is a non-selective method. Performance depends on the type of material. Requirement of several types of adsorbents are there. Then chemical derivatization is needed to improve their adsorption capacity. So all these are the lacuna or the hurdles if we are using adsorption and filtration as a tool for water purification. Then if we are using catalytic technology, then the initial investment cost is very high. Transport and storage of the effluents, like whatever purified water we are collecting after doing the catalytic treatment, then we have to keep it stored, and we have every time we have to monitor the quality of that thing, that output, what we are getting after treatment, because the technology what we are using, the catalyst what we are using, it is being consumed very early. और बहुत जल्दी वो अपना काम करना बंद कर देते हैं. बट वंस इट स्टॉप एक्टिंग or purifying water, then the what quality of water we are getting, we have to monitor it. So the running cost is also very high. So formation of dioxin and other pollutants may be a chance if we are using the catalytic technology for water purification. Then local communities always have opposed the presence of such incinerating plant in the locality. So whatever waste material is being collected after water purification, that disposable of those things again becomes a big issue. So not a very advisable technique. Now electrochemistry is, if we are using, then anode passivation and sludge deposition on the electrodes that can inhibit the electrolytic process in continuous operation. So then we have to keep maintaining those electrodes and we have to keep it मेंटेन इट, मतलब उसका मेंटेनेंस चार्ज बहुत ज्यादा हो जाएगा, फिर से वो हमारी कॉस्ट को एड ऑन करेगा. और जो हम पानी सिर्फ हम पीने के लिए जो पानी ले रहे हैं वो पानी भी बहुत महंगा हो जाएगा, विच इज नॉट अफोर्डेबल, विच कैन नॉट बी अफोर्ड बाय ईच एंड एवरीवन. So anode passivation and sludge deposition on the electrodes that can inhibit the electrolytic process in continuous operation requires post treatment to remove high concentrations of iron and aluminum ions. Separation efficiency depends strongly on bubble size and formation of sludge. And secondly, when we start that method, it really works well. But on repeated use, the efficiency of this method reduces and the maintenance cost will be very high. Another method is biological method. The drawback with this is it is necessary to create an optimally favorable environment, requires management and maintenance of microorganisms and or physicochemical pretreatment. Complexity of the microbiological mechanisms, the possible sludge bulking and foaming is a big issue with that. If we are using certain microorganisms which are consuming all those heavy metals and minerals which is not required, if the solid content is high in our water and if we have used some microorganisms which consumes on those things, then those microorganisms are being consumed, then we have to remove those microorganisms before consuming that thing. So, and then only that microorganism which is not harmful to body, that will only grow, and उसका कितना परसेंटेज हमने कितना परसेंटेज ऐड किया था वो खुद मल्टीप्लाई हो रहा है कि नहीं, या फिर उतना ही रह रहा है कि नहीं, which is required to clean that much amount of water. So all those parameters we have to keep a check on that thing. So it is a very complex procedure. So all those methods in which chemicals are being used have some or the other limitation when we practice those methods. Now, what are the different parameters which we should keep check on that? Just a minute. Sorry for the disturbance. So what are the parameters which are important to keep under the acceptable limits? For checking the quality of quality of drinking and safe water, some of the parameters of water are needed to be evaluated. These parameters basically depicts the quality of water based on its physical appearance, salinity, presence of pathogens, heavy metals, dissolved solids, etc. Now, the presence of contaminants or toxic material are harmful for living beings and nature. These parameters depicts the quality of water, making it drinkable and useful for other activities. The parameters are total dissolved solids, that is TDS, We commonly call it as TDS. Second point of concern is your turbidity, how much clean your water looks. Then third is heavy metals. If the concentration are above the acceptable limits, it is really very harmful for our inner organs, and it gets deposited in liver and all those kidney, where it show major effects. Then microbes. This is again what type of microbes are there. Like presence of E. coli is not at all acceptable, but most of the water, it is the commonest contaminant in any of the water supply. It has some E. coli content in that. Then conductivity, which is basically depicts the amount of salts dissolved in water. So generally, if TDS is low, then conductivity is also low. But if dissolved solids are high, then the conductivity of water should also be a concern. And by this method also we can control this. Our water should have only this much of conductivity, which is giving an idea about the dissolved solids only, dissolved salts only. Then pH, of course, it is a criteria. So these are the parameters which we should keep a check on these things. The first parameter is total dissolved solids, is a measure of sum of all inorganic and organic substances in a liquid in molecular, ionized or microgranular colloidal suspended form. So it may be a dissolved solid, or it may be a microgranular colloidal suspended form. Many times it happens that when too many solids are get dissolved, then they make a complex ion which remains in the colloidal size. So the presence of dissolved solids in water may affect its taste. Water with extremely low concentration of TDS may also be unacceptable because it's flat, insipid taste. It loses its complete taste. As the solid TDS of water comes down, it gives a sweetish taste. But if it is too low, then it is totally tasteless. Flat taste is there, which is not also acceptable. And secondly, why we are consuming a water which is too low in TDS content? I think that is again not advisable. If we are removing 100% mineral content from water, then its TDS count is coming very low. But those minerals are also required for our body. So a minimum level of TDS should be there. The palatability of drinking water has been rated by panels of testers in relation to its TDS level. And it is like this. If the TDS level is less than 300 milligram per liter, then the test is excellent. If it is in between 300 to 600 milligram, then it is referred as a good test. If it is in between 600 to 900, it is also okay, not bad, fair enough. But if it is 900 to 1200, then it has got a poor taste. And if it is greater than 1200 mg per liter, then it is unacceptable. It is the standard limit of presence of dissolved solids in any water. As per the, according to WHO, the WHO has released a guidelines based on the survey and how much amount of dissolved solids can be easily accepted by our system, human body. Based on that thing, this limit has been decided. But taste is again a parameter. If it is less than 300 mg, it is really affecting the taste also. So, but generally when we use RO, many times we don't know about this parameter. When we are using RO for water purification, then initially we set our RO at a TDS count of 300, right? But on subsequent use of this RO, after a week or 15 days only, the TDS count becomes less than 50. or 30 even. And when the TDS level comes to this extent, we are getting very sweet water. The taste of water becomes very sweet. And that is not good. So it should be around 300 mg. If it is less than this, then also it is not advisable. And if it is more than this, then till 900 our body is able to digest those things and adjust with that TDS. But if it is above 900, then again it is very harmful. So we should not go for a very low limit of TDS. This is what I want to highlight. Then second thing is microbial contamination. The microbial contamination of water is often of fecal nature. Sir, should we give a break? I think we can continue for 15-20 minutes. It's all about 15-20 minutes, or as you wish.
If you need a break for a few minutes, like 2 to 3 minutes, then we can have.
No. It's okay with me.
Yeah, otherwise we can continue as per your convenience, no issues.
Okay. So let me wind up it. So it's better we will continue with the talk.
Okay, ma'am.
Thank you. So second concern is microbial contamination. The microbial contamination of water is often of fecal nature related to humans. That is water sewage treatment plants, combined sewage overflow, non-collective sewage system, or domesticated animals or wildlife. All those things are really contributing to microbial contamination in water. The sources of contamination by using simple or rapid indicators, but are mainly focused on parameters such as fecal bacteria, that is E. coli, or enteric viruses that play a major role in waterborne diseases. Enterobacteriaceae group contains the most prominent bacterial strains that have been reported as microbial pathogenic contaminants for drinking water sources. Since their particular phenotype and genotype encouraged an increased prevalence and alarming healthcare conditions. Now, infectious diseases caused by pathogenic bacteria, viruses, and parasites, widespread health risk associated with drinking water. As we all know, cholera, gastroenteritis caused by Vibrios, typhoid fever, bacillary dysentery, intestinal diseases, urinary tract infections, and even bloodstream infections are some of the common diseases caused by the presence of pathogen in water. All these are waterborne diseases. And so our utmost concern is with the microbial count in water. Whatever water we are using for drinking purpose, it should have minimum contamination with E. coli and other bacteria, microbes. The organisms which are present in water and the values which are acceptable are all water intended for drinking purpose should have E. coli or thermotolerant coliform bacteria. It must not be detectable in any, not a single organism should be there in 100 ml sample. So this is the limit, like if we are taking 100 ml of sample, not even a one E. coli organism should be there. It should be absolutely free. Or treated water entering the distribution system, it must not be detectable in any 100 ml sample. Again, the total coliform bacteria. I think there is some mistake. I think it should be in 1000 ml sample. Okay, we can get it checked. These limits, it may be wrong. Because if we are treating the water for drinking purpose, then the limits are really stringent. But if it is for distribution, it may be slightly lenient. So anyway, these limits can be checked from the literature. The classic waterborne enteric pathogen include Vibrio cholera and Salmonella enterica. and Shigella. These are the common species which have largely been controlled by water treatment and disinfection and are of major concern for their content in drinking water. The third parameter is turbidity. Turbidity describes the cloudiness of water caused by suspended particles, which can be checked by a nephrometer very easily. Or even if nephrometer is not there, then it can be checked by your visible spectrophotometry also. But nephrometer is a very low cost manual instrument, and it has very maintenance cost of this instrument is also very less. So we can have it for controlling the quality of water, for testing the quality of water. Turbidity is below 4 NTU can only be detected by the this instrument nephrometer. If we want to use some high level instrument, then we can get it checked by UV also. Now pH adjustment. The pH of water is measure of the acid base equilibrium. And in most natural waters is controlled by the carbon dioxide bicarbonate carbonate equilibrium system. See again, in case of smaller water units where less amount of water has to be stored, with the help of some chemicals you can maintain the pH. But what about the open water bodies like river? If the pH of water of that river gets changed either acidic side or on the basic side because of the contaminants, then how we can control such large water bodies? If we are using some chemicals to control, then we have to use lot much amount of those chemicals, and which is really harmful. So that's why we have to come out some herbal method or some natural method by which we can adjust the pH and all other contaminants level of natural waters also. And it is being practiced, like when I went through the literature and discussed with many people, then moringa is a plant which is being used in South India as a natural water purifier. They just take out the leaves and pods of moringa, crush it and put it in river as it is. The chelating power of that moringa leaves and moringa pods, the proteins present in that moringa pods acts as a chelating agent, and it is being used to purify water bodies, open water bodies. Like in many times in rainy season, because of the high flow of water, the water becomes very muddy. They just put lot of moringa in that, moringa plant in that. And we just see that after 24 hours, the whole of the mud or the suspended solid, it gets settled down and the supernatant layer becomes perfectly clean. Right? So these are the natural things which we should use for water purification of open water bodies. In pure water, a decrease in pH of about 0.45 occurs as the temperature is raised by 25 degree centigrade. So these are the, by many of the methods we can control pH, but there are many other methods also, natural methods also, by which we can adjust the pH in the acceptable range. Now, next concern is the hardness of water. Hardness is expressed in milligram per liter as calcium carbonate, as in the alkalinity. Both calcium and magnesium have a valence of 2 when converting to calcium carbonate. So hardness of water is imparted because of these calcium salts and the magnesium salts which remains in the dissolved form in our water. The sum of calcium and magnesium is the total hardness, which is subdivided to carbonate and non-carbonated hardness. If the alkalinity is equal to or greater, then the total hardness. There is no non-carbonated hardness. So to control the hardness of water, generally these soluble carbonates, either calcium carbonate or magnesium carbonate, is converted into the insoluble salts, and it gets precipitated by use of other reagents. And once it gets precipitated, it reduces the hardness of water. Now, conductivity is another measure which gives an idea about the quality of water. Conductivity in water is affected by the presence of inorganic dissolved solids such as chloride, nitrite, sulfate, and phosphate anions, or sodium, magnesium, calcium, iron, and aluminum cations. The conductivity in streams and rivers is affected primarily by the geology of the area through which the water flows. Pure water is not a good conductor of electricity. Pure water, right? Distilled water की अगर अपन बात कर रहे हैं, then it is not a good conductor of electricity because the ionic content in that is less. Ordinary distilled water in equilibrium with carbon dioxide of the air has a conductivity of about 10⁻⁻⁶. Because the electrical current is transported by the ions in the solution, the conductivity increases as the concentration of ion increases. Very, very obvious. So the typical conductivity of water is, ultra pure water has got a conductivity of 5.5 into 10⁻⁻⁶. Drinking water is 0.005 to 0.05, and sea water is 5. So see, as the ion concentration is increasing, the conductivity is increasing. See, again, from the conductivity level of drinking water, the acceptable range of this also indicates that some ions must be there in water, drinking water. It is must for your biological system. The high conductivity is related to high TDS. Concentration that is the concentration of dissolved solids. Amount of dissolved mineral salts in the water. Conductivity meters that measures conductivity also aim to measure the TDS of the sample for producing the results. So it is again an important parameter. Now, the most important thing is determination of heavy metals, जिसका concentration आजकल बहुत ज़्यादा बढ़ता जा रहा है क्योंकि हम ऐसी चीजें यूज कर रहे हैं जिसमें metals are one of the constituent and which is being discharged in water, which is being supplied to open land. Like in fertilizers we are using, or in leather industry, or in most of the industries for purification of all those things, heavy metals are there as a byproduct and which is being discharged in an unhealthy manner, unethical manner to the atmosphere. So heavy metal contamination of global environment arises from natural sources directly or indirectly from anthropogenic activities.
Slide has not changed. It's a microbial contamination.
No. It's determination of heavy metals.
Slide has not changed.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, it is there.
Okay. Determination of heavy metals. The slide is determination of heavy metals now?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So it has adverse effects on human health, and therefore heavy metal contamination of food chain deserves special attention. Many heavy metals and metalloids are toxic and can cause undesirable effects and severe problems even at very low concentration. Like cadmium, chromium, cobalt, copper, nickel, lead, zinc, at high concentration could lead to serious ecological consequences and pose many human health risks. So what are the remediation technologies? Bioaccumulation of heavy metals in food chains and their toxicity to biological systems due to increased concentration over time have led to tremendous pressure for their separation and purification. Phytoremediation. Bioremediation is the technological process whereby biological systems, plants and animals, including microorganisms, are harnessed to affect the cleanup of pollutants from environmental matrices. I would like to share a very important plant which we have seen many times. जहां पे भी रुका हुआ पानी अपने को दिखता है, वहां पे एक तरीके का प्लांट आता है जिसका लोकल नेम इज कटेल. आई डोंट रिमेम्बर इट्स बॉटनिकल नेम. आई एम नॉट एबल टू, इन विच देयर इज a pod. I forgot to include the picture of that thing, but that cattail is a weed. Basically it is a weed, but ये वहां पे उगाई जाती है जहां पे heavy metal discharge ज्यादा है. If the water content have high heavy metal content, then cattail is being grown there so that it consumes through roots. It consumes most of the heavy metal for its growth. And basically it is being agricultured there just to lower down the concentration of heavy metal in water. So this is the biological method by which even the weeds which is automatically grown up there, they have got a logic behind it. उनको डेवलपमेंट, उनको अपनी ग्रोथ के लिए हेवी मेटल्स की जरूरत है और अपनी रिक्वायरमेंट है हेवी मेटल्स को रिमूव कराना. सो वी शुड गो फॉर सच मेजर मेजर्स which are of natural origin to control the contaminants in water rather than using some chemicals or doing some type of treatment which is actually causing, adding cost to it also, and in some or the another manner it is affecting, it is some of the residue of it is left in water which we are consuming. तो अगर हम इस तरीके के तरीकों पे जाएंगे वाटर प्यूरिफिकेशन के लिए, then it may result in a better environment. So cattail is a plant. We are working on that in our lab. Cattail is a plant which absorbs most of the heavy metals as a nutrient for its growth, and it is nowadays it is practiced. बहुत सारे इंडस्ट्री के आसपास जो उनका वेस्ट वाटर जहाँ पे डिस्चार्ज होता है वहां पे इसकी खेती की जा रही है. Intentionally they are growing this cattail so that the water becomes of that quality which can be discharged in open fields. So this is one phytoremediation. It is one method which is being adopted on large scale nowadays. So these are the different heavy metals and their acceptable limits, and their limits are too low. The guideline value is too low, and if we check most of the water in the surrounding area of any industry, then they are high in any of these heavy metals. Some are high in arsenic, because कोई भी इंडस्ट्री में हम जब काम कर रहे हैं, इंडस्ट्री में देख रहे हैं, तो उसमें as a byproduct heavy metal production is there. So and that heavy metal is being discharged and it is being mixed with the local water bodies. So it is of high concern nowadays. So these are the limits with guidelines which is suggested by WHO. It should not be more than this. And see the effect. It is carcinogenic. Genotoxicity is being produced because of these heavy metals. It causes mutagenic effect. So their effect is long lasting. So basically this is the main thing which I want to highlight, that there are many plants which we can use as a water purifier, and it is being used in previous history. It is being used also, but nowadays only we are switching ourselves to chemical moieties for immediate effect and for easy action. Otherwise, these plants have magical effects on water purification. Like moringa, I already told you. Moringa oleifera, which is commonly known as surjane की फली, जो हम लोग रोज अपने डेली लाइफ में खाते भी हैं. तो moringa has got high beneficial value for water purification system. And then the most important, the mechanism behind it is The suspended dirt particles leading to coagulation followed by flocculation and sedimentation to clarify water. Moringa seeds, fruits, as well as the leaves of moringa is very high in protein content. And because of these high protein content, it has got a chelating or coagulating property. So because of this chelating property, whatever suspended impurities are there, it gets flocculated and form a sediment with that proteins. This is how this moringa works. Secondly, if you are using such herbs for water purification, then whatever biological activity it is having, medicinal property it is having, like moringa is having activity against cancer, diabetes, asthma, it has got multifold medicinal properties. So if such medicinal properties are being imparted also in water, it is not harmful. So such measures can be taken. The parameters of water which can be controlled through moringa is turbidity and the microbial count can be reduced. It has got antimicrobial activity also. So it has got magical effect in water purification. Second plant can be Typha angustifolia. It contains linoleic acid, pentosan, halocellulose, lignin, and potassium. Again, thus in the same fashion, it is acting. The stems usually trap the sediment and slits in the water. Once it is grown in that area where heavy metal content is high or dissolved salts are there, are high in water, then if it is grown in such area, then all these dissolved solids and heavy metals will be consumed by it. So it is again a natural, the properties what it has is natural antiseptic properties it has. It prevents anemia and it has got anti-cancer activity also. So it is mainly used for removal of heavy metals, TDS, to lower down the TDS and to remove the turbidity. The third plant is, there are so many actually, there is a long list of plants, but most of the plants are working on different mechanisms, like either they are working on the mechanism of coagulation or precipitation, or it is acting on the mechanism of, it has a bactericidal or bacteriostatic action. अपना water quality को control करने के लिए basically we are concerned with two parameters only. One is microbial count and second is your TDS, that is heavy metal content is another and the dissolved solids is another. So both these parameters can be well taken care by herbs. There are many herbs, and if we could use a combination of such herbs or extract of such herbs in combination along with their crude form, then the immediate action for water purification can also be achieved. And if we are keeping water in contact for long duration, like 24 hours, 48 hours, in that manner also, it can be used. One more point I would like to highlight, that we can use such herbal mix even for 1 glass of water or for a container for the household purpose, or to a big water tank from where the water supply has been done, or even in still a larger water body like rivers or ponds, which is used as a water resource. तो उस लेवल से लेके हम जो 1 ग्लास पानी कंज्यूम कर रहे हैं उस लेवल तक we can use this mixture of herbs for water purification. So this is a area where lot of research can be done, and actually it is in progress also, but still lot of scope is there to carry out research and to come out with exact mechanism how it is working, because any single plant is not sufficient enough to cover all the parameters. But if we could use a combination, then we can come out with a solution which is really, really helpful.
Can I ask one question here, ma'am? Sorry to interrupt you in between.
Yeah.
Ma'am, in the case of this Tulsi, you have mentioned
Yes.
the mechanism of action as oil extracted from leaves as antimicrobial effects and insecticidal effects.
Sorry.
But I don't think this will be the
What?
mechanism of water purification. Is this?
It may be a wrong notion. Let me
Yeah.
check. Just a minute. How to go for an earlier slide? Tulsi. Oil
Because
extracted
that is
from
the
leaves is
effect of
antimicrobial.
its that is the effect of the oil which is present in this.
Yes, the Tulsi has got an antimicrobial activity.
Yes. Antimicrobial activity is there.
Yes. So that is what now if we use the extract of Tulsi as a whole, also we can use Tulsi leaf. But if we use the Tulsi extract, it will have its antimicrobial effect. And if we put 1 drop of that in our water, it may give an immediate effect also. So how it is not possible? I am not getting your question.
Dr. Sarojit, can you please further elaborate on your query?
Sir, actually, like in the case of typhoid, it is mentioned that the stems usually trap sediments and cells in water. Like that is, we can get from here that how it is purifying the water. But okay, maybe microbes are getting taken out from that. Maybe that is the mechanism of action.
Yeah. That is what I am telling. See, Tulsi is not having any role in sedimentation or removing the particulate matter or anything, but it is having some role in reducing the microbial count. So if we use, that is what my concept is. If we use like moringa along with Tulsi or along with clove, so if we use a mix of herb which is working on different principles, then we can come out with a mixture which can really cover all aspects, all parameters of water purification. वो TDS को भी cover कर लेगा और माइक्रोबियल काउंट जो हमारा मेजर कंसर्न है उसको भी करे. फिर कोई एक ऐसा इंग्रेडिएंट हम डालें जो हेवी मेटल्स को भी उसमें लोअर डाउन कर पाए, रिमूव कर पाए. So this is the only concept.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
So there are so many herbs. There is a long list. Like neem is there. Clove. Clove is also used generally to increase the, मतलब कई जगह तो अगर आप सफर में पानी लेके जा रहे हैं तो ऐसा कहा जाता है कि उसमें आप एक लौंग डाल के ले जाएं. So then for next 24 hours that water remains in a remains good with all parameters. Again, the clove, which contains eugenol as the main constituent, which is having antimicrobial property only. So it is again acting in the same fashion. Lemon peel, which is again commonly used, which contains D-limonene, citral, and terpenoline. So it is again having the action against, but it is having action against turbidity also, like settling down effect is also there with lemon peel, along with the antimicrobial effect. Both the properties it has. So there are many plants which can be used as a natural water purifier. I have shown you only 5 or 10 of that, but there is long list which can be used. So this is all from my end. If we wish, I can share one of my research work with you people. We worked on clove and we got some good output in that. So if time permits me and if it is really helpful or you are interested,
Yeah, definitely, ma'am.
I
Actually,
can share some slides of that also.
actually such kind of work which we actually do in laboratories and they are of the environmental concern, and that is really helpful in establishing the concepts and improving it.
Yeah, basically my idea is just to throw a concept where we can work and which is really required for society also.
Definitely.
Not a very high level research work or setting up a mechanism or a new technique we are coming up,
Yeah.
But it is practical utility of such type of projects are really good. So
That's true.
this concept only we have started working in this area, and I delivered this talk so that if
So that
some
is
of
really
you may get some idea, some of the participants get some idea.
And yesterday we had a session on plants for removing environmental contaminants.
Okay.
And that was also a good session by Professor Chashvi. You have also touched plants. So the plants which were discussed in the two presentations, they are entirely different. There was no overlapping. So that is an addition to the you see knowledge through this course.
Okay.
This is one more thing before you share your that clue presentation. Uh, like you said, we put a drop of tulsi, few leaves of tulsi or a drop of tulsi
Yeah.
oil or clove or lemon peel.
Right.
These all things, they make the water more potable and they remove the acidity. They move the water, make the water actually alkaline.
Right.
So we all might be knowing that nowadays there is a huge trend for the alkaline water,
Alkaline water.
and there are alkalizers are available in the market which are costing more than 10,000 of rupees. Yeah. So
Right.
what I think the best way we can alkalize the water and still making it, bacteria free is by, let's in the morning we take a 2 liter water bottle or 1 liter
बिल्कुल
water bottle,
बिल्कुल
put
बिल्कुल
some lemon, half a lemon peel into this, some few tulsi leaves to one of cucumber.
एग्जैक्टली क्या है ना, अपन डेली बेसिस पे ये सारी बातें कर रहे हैं,
हाँ,
बट रिप्रोड्यूसिबिलिटी नहीं है चीजों में. लाइक sometimes we are doing it, sometimes we are not doing it, as it is not easy to
yeah.
do such things on a regular basis. But
क्योंकि हाँ रेगुलरिटी इम्पोर्टेंट, रेगुलेटरी नहीं हो पाती है रेगुलेटरी,
हाँ
लेकिन फिर भी जितना हम
बिल्कुल
कर सकते हैं, दिस इज
करना ही
व्हाट
चाहिए.
वी कैन, हाउ वी कैन. देखो, एक तो है कि एनवायरमेंट से कंटेमिनेंट्स को रिमूव करना, राइट, दैट वी कैन डू टू अ वेरी लिटिल एक्सटेंट एट आवर लेवल. At our level, what we can do individual level is that
यस.
या तो हम ऐसे प्लांट्स लगाएं जो एनवायरमेंट कंटेमिनेशन को कम करते हैं, या हम अपने लेवल पे ये करें कि हम कंटेमिनेशन मिनिमम करें,
राइट.
और या फिर हम ये कर सकते हैं कि हम अपने आप को उन कंटेमिनेंट से बचा कैसे सकते हैं, हाउ वी कैन मेक अवर सेफ फ्रॉम दोस. सो ये सारी मल्टी प्रोन अप्रोच है.
हाँ, और
अभी
आजकल बहुत फॉलो भी हो रहा है. लाइक आप बड़े से बड़े होटल में जा रहे हैं, वहां पे व्हाट वी आर फाइंडिंग, like in our breakfast there are 10 types of water detoxifying. like एक कुछ में पुदीना लीव्स रहेंगी, कुछ में आपका जिंजर डला रहेगा, so it is ginger water, it is पुदीना water. But if we think all of those things are only alkaline water, और वो या तो एंटी माइक्रोबियल एक्टिविटी है उन प्लांट्स में, और या फिर वो अल्कलाइनिटी की तरफ आगे बढ़ रहा है.
बेसिकली बिकॉज ऑफ द मिनरल्स, बिकॉज ऑफ द वेरी वीक एसिडिफायर्स, उनकी वजह से वो अल्कलाइन हो जाता है.
हाँ,
बट दिस प्रैक्टिस इज वेरी गुड मैम. हम तो मतलब 2-3 साल से फॉलो कर रहे हैं इसको.
हाँ,
अल्कलाइन वाटर को, मतलब ये घर में जो बॉटल में डाल देते हैं मॉर्निंग में, फिर पानी खत्म हो जाता है, उसमें और पानी डाल देते हैं, है ना, वो लीच होके वो फिर अल्कलाइन हो जाता है.
Even cinnamon is very helpful in this. Just put a piece of cinnamon in water bottle and we can use that thing for 2-3 days. फिर उसके बाद वो cinnamon का पीस निकाल के अलग कर देते हैं, फिर से आप नया डाल लो,
डेफिनेटली.
तो वो टेस्ट भी आता है और हेल्थ पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से इट इज रियली गुड.
दैट्स ट्रू, दैट्स ट्रू. ठीक है मैम, वो बताइए आपको
एक बार बस जस्ट आई विल शेयर इट स्लाइटली सम रिजल्ट्स आई विल शेयर विद Is it visible?
Yes, ma'am. Although we are not, have you made it a full screen?
Yes. I don't know. चलिए सर, थोड़ी सी बात है, अपन इसको देख लेते हैं.
आप उसको विदाउट फुल स्क्रीन ही दिखा दीजिए ना.
ठीक है. So here we worked on clove. We worked on clove. So we worked on two things: clove as a crude clove powder, and we have done the experimentation with clove extract also. So let us just focus on our result and discussion part. And from many of the literature, we find that it is eugenol, which is actually acting as an antimicrobial agent, and it has got certain antioxidant property also. Basically, the idea of clove came from a house only. As I am Deepti Jain, तो हम लोग अपने घरों में यूज करते हैं लौंग. तो बहुत देखा है कि मम्मी वगैरह घर में अगर पानी सुबह नल आए हैं, पानी छाना है, तो उसमें उसको हल्का सा गर्म करके lukewarm, and she used to put some buds of clove in it, 4-5 buds in a around 10-liter container. तो अगर उसमें लौंग डाल दी गई है तो वो पानी अब शाम तक के लिए ठीक है, and she used to drink that water. और अगर लौंग नहीं डाली है तो उसको वो हर 3 घंटे में पानी को छान छान के फिर पिया जाता है. So this is a normal practice in most of the Jain families, and from that thing only it strike to my mind that there must be some property in clove which is acting as a, which is maintaining the quality of water. वो क्लोव में और कुछ नहीं हो सकता है, but it has antimicrobial activity only.
That's true.
From this routine activity only, I got the idea कि why don't we come out with some product which can be used very easily and which works in a quantitative manner, rather than अंदाजे से अपन ने कुछ क्लोव डाल दिया, कभी डाला कभी नहीं डाला. इसके बजाय अगर हम कुछ एक ऐसा रेडीमेड प्रोडक्ट आ जाएगा which is ready to use, then it has got more application, better application rather than this. So because of that thing only we started working on this.
वो वैसे भी वो ऐसा होता है ना मैम कि जो चीज घर में अवेलेबल है, अगर उसको कहें कि यूज कर लो तो हम नहीं करते हैं.
नहीं करते हैं.
अगर
हाँ.
वही चीज मार्केट में एज ए शैशे अवेलेबल है तो वो यूज करेंगे.
बिल्कुल. बिल्कुल. So this is a simple procedure. We have done we have prepared ethanolic extract.
विजिबल नहीं है मैम, विजिबल नहीं है. आपकी स्लाइड नहीं दिख रही.
स्लाइड नहीं दिख रही.
आपने फुल मोड पे दिखा रहे हैं.
Just a minute. Actually, this is touch screen, and when I used to move the panel, I stop. I press that button of pause sharing. That's why it is like.
लिखा ऊपर resume slide show.
Yeah. Is it visible now? No, it is stopped. Okay, I will share it again.
In the meantime, if there is any input from any participant,
yeah, you can ask.
They can also contribute, because जो बातें अभी डिस्कस हो रही हैं मैम के साथ, वो हम सब लोग घर में करते हैं. The purpose is just to see minimize the effect of pollutants on our body. Purpose तो वही है. तो अगर किसी पार्टिसिपेंट के पास ऐसा कुछ और नुस्खा है जिसके साथ हम एनवायरमेंट पोल्यूशन से अपने आप को घर में बैठ के बचा सकते हैं, तो प्लीज जरूर शेयर कीजिए आप.
Good afternoon, sir.
जी, good afternoon.
Sir,
Yes,
it's tough. Yes, sir, it's very, very tough nowadays to, get get ourselves completely free from such toxic substances. But yes, preventive measures can be taken. This can be done on the part of the individual, but because the food which we are consuming, the water, of course, it is having so much contaminations. And also the government should also take some initiatives about the purifications, and certain chemicals, they should try to use them in a very less concentrations. So only then such things can be achieved. This is what like my input is for this thing.
हाँ, गवर्नमेंट जो है वो अपने लेवल पे जो भी रेगुलेशंस कर रही हैं वो दैट इज देयर पार्ट, दे आर डू वेदर दे डू इट और नॉट, वेदर दे मॉनिटर इट नॉट। अब उसमें हमारा रोल, हमारा कंट्रीब्यूशन कितना है हम ये नहीं कह सकते हैं, लेकिन एज एन इंडिविजुअल जैसे हम कहते हैं ना कि थिंक ग्लोबली एक्ट लोकली, तो लोकली कम से कम अपने घर में ही एक्ट कर लेंगे। और वही जो प्रैक्टिस हम फॉलो करते हैं अगर वो हम प्रोपेगेट करें आसपास, है ना, दोस्तों में, पड़ोसियों में, रिश्तेदारों में, तो दिस वे वी कैन यू सी, मतलब वो कड़ी से कड़ी मिलेगी तो चेन बनेगी, तो वो हो सकता है ऐसा, है ना।
Is it visible, sir?
यस मैम।
Yeah. So
Yes,
these
sir,
are
it's visible.
these are the major constituents which are present. Like eugenol is there, beta caryophyllene is there, which is major volatile oil, and eugenol acetate, beta caryophyllene, alpha humulene, and alpha thiogen. So from its chemical constituent only, it is clear that it has got some antimicrobial activity. Then we have prepared a simple ethanolic extract of it, and then dried extract is being collected. Then that extract is being tested for all chemical constituents which are present in it, like what alkaloids, phenolic compounds, and tannins and flavonoids. A routine practical we have done, like all chemical constituents we have checked in that extract. And these are our findings, that it has the protein and glycosides are absent in a clove, but all other things like alkaloid, tannins, flavonoids are present in this. So this is how we have carried out our practical. And this is the quantitation of all chemical constituents, the total alkaloid and flavonoid content we have estimated in that. And in this only we realized, see why we should have a ready-made thing option. Like when we worked with different cloves, then the flavonoid and alkaloid content in that is, there is major difference in that, like. So that's why from what are the resources from where you are collecting these natural things, that is important. That's why a standardized thing, if it is available, then definitely the acceptability for that thing is much higher as compared to, and the results are also much better. This is the quantitation of all chemical constituents in that. Then we have carried out the experiment with two things, the crude clove as well as the extract of that thing, which is having better action against water purification. And we have done it with two methods. One is with broth culture method and another is with agar plate method. So in the broth culture method, the 0.5 gram of the Muller-Hinton agar media was suspended in 100 ml of distilled water. It is heated and it is a routine procedure. We kept it at a 15 pound pressure for 121 degrees centigrade, sterilized it and cooled it. And in this media, we have added the pure water or the water which we want to sample, and then after addition of clove extract and clove bud separately, then after every 15 minutes we have withdrawn the water and checked for its microbial count. So the results what we got is like this, like till 240 minutes, this is the initial microbial count, and till 240 minutes, if it is the clove remains in contact with water, then the microbial count lowers down to this extent. So it has got very good effect in controlling the microbial growth or decrease. There are two things. See, one, the whatever microbes are there, they are getting reproduced. So the microbial count is increasing. And secondly, our clove is acting as a bactericidal also. So in both fashion, this clove extract is having sufficient action in controlling the microbial count. See, because we have checked this first sample in which it is not added.
There is also one thing to note that without adding any clove, the microbial count is increasing.
Yeah, it is increasing.
0.278 to 0.401.
So microbial count is increasing because
Yeah.
when we store water, it gets the reproduction of those microbes gets enhanced and it gets increased. But when we add, but after withdrawing it, again it is increasing. See, after 15 minutes, whatever sample we have taken out.
Yeah, it's increasing. That it's
Yeah.
As long as there is a clove in it, it is controlling the microbial growth.
No, sir. Here I want to say that this sample, what we have taken after 15 minutes, but here 100% microbial microbes are not removed. So whatever microbes are still there,
they have started growing.
They get multiplied. See, from 0.263, it becomes 0.311. So they get multiplied, but after 240 minutes, the count becomes very less. So after 3 hours, like it is really effective. So in this,
I think what we can do at a home level, house level, that if we put some cloves in water at night and we in the morning, then thereafter we can use it as a very pure water.
Yes, minimum it requires minimum 1 hour is required to have a sufficient action so that it can convert it. It becomes a drinkable water.
That's true.
And then then we can continue this study for 24 hours or even for a longer duration, just to check how long it is actually maintaining that quality. That also.
This antimicrobial activity, 2 clove buds per liter of water?
Yeah, 2 clove buds per liter of water.
Okay.
So this is how we have done. These are the experiments. But the main conclusion of our research work is that clove extract as well as clove bud, both are really acting well. And if we are using, see from this picture, it is clear. If we are using clove extract, then initially there is initially only we are started getting a response. But if we are using a clove bud, then minimum in 30 minutes or 1 hour, we have to wait to have its response, because that thing is being extracted out and will show its activity. But at a household level, if we are using clove buds also, it is good enough.
Yeah, that is good.
So similarly, we can plan many more experiments and it is showing good activity. Right now, we are working on cattail and lemon peel. So cattail is having good results on removal of heavy metal.
Yes, they are. वो खड़े पानी में वो मोटे-मोटे पत्ते वाला रहता है.
नहीं सर, ये घास जैसा होता है. इसमें वो पिक्चर आई, बिल्कुल लंबी घास होती है 2-3 फीट के बराबर की, और जिसमें बहुत खड़ा एक फल लगता है ऊपर. इट इज ऑर्नामेंटली बहुत अच्छा दिखता है. मतलब वो एक ऐसा पॉड होता है विच सिलेंडर लाइक.
Okay.
Next time, sometime I will share a picture of it so that you can easily recognize that.
Got it.
Everyone has seen that thing, but we are not really knowing that it has got this activity. From literature only we come to know, and now we are getting very good results out of it. So practically also, this is when we worked with diffusion disk method also. So clove extract is again giving better activity than quercetin as far as antimicrobial activity is being concerned.
Okay.
So from both ways, it is showing good antimicrobial activity, and it can be used as a water purifier. So that's it. These are all the results what we got in that. But results are quite good. And
Does it also help to reduce the TDS?
हाँ, TDS के लिए इसमें बहुत ज्यादा efficiently तो नहीं काम किया. Like if we started the TDS is 411 initially, and after 240 minutes it lowers down to 317. But it can be optimized further if we use more amount of clove, or
So
and it may work better.
From this, one thing is again that मुझे ये लगता है कि जब भी हम पानी में क्लोव डालेंगे तो जब उसका एक्सट्रैक्ट डालेंगे बना के, तो जो पानी को जब हमने पीना है बॉटल से, तो पानी उसको स्टर नहीं करना.
कुछ थोड़ा तो सेटल होना चाहिए.
हाँ, डिस्टर्बेंस नहीं कर, पानी को डिस्टर्ब नहीं करना, उसको मिनिमम डिस्टर्ब करके लेना है, और जो लोअर पार्ट रह जाएगा उसको डिस्कार्ड करना.
सर, अगर अपन ये बात कर रहे हैं तो आयुर्वेद में ये बात बहुत क्लियरली मेंशन्ड है कि बॉटल से पानी पीने को मना किया जाता है ना जनरली. बड़े लोग हमेशा ये घर में कहते हैं कि आप गिलास में पानी लो और फिर आराम से पियो,
बैठ के पियो.
इट मीन्स दैट वी शुड टेक वाटर, कीप इट फॉर अ मिनट. हम जब ग्लास में पानी लेंगे उसको टेबल पर रखेंगे, जब थोड़ी देर, तो वो पानी जितना शांत होगा, उसमें टर्बुलेंस जितना कम होगा, वो उतना हेल्दी वाटर होता है.
हाँ, वो एक्चुअली इसमें
मतलब अपने आयुर्वेद में ये बात बहुत ज्यादा अच्छे से कहा गया है, और इसका रीजनिंग भी बहुत अच्छे से दिया गया है कि व्हाई अ टर्बुलेंट वाटर इज नॉट गुड फॉर हेल्थ एंड वी शुड टेक, जितना शांत पानी होता है उतना अच्छा होता है.
अच्छा,
आपको पानी वैसे ही पीना चाहिए. तो एवरीवन इज मूविंग टुवर्ड्स आयुर्वेद नाउ.
नहीं करना चाहिए मैम, इट हैज टू बी, अदरवाइज जिस हिसाब से हम केमिकल एज की तरफ चल रहे हैं ना, वो डिजास्टर्स होने वाला है. मैंने शायद आपसे पहले भी शेयर किया था एक लास्ट टाइम जब हम मिले थे, अबाउट डिस्पोजल ऑफ प्लास्टिक एट होम. तो ये सारे मतलब इट्स अ गुड, इट्स वर्थ नोटिंग फॉर ऑल द पार्टिसिपेंट्स. वो मैं प्रैक्टिस आज भी फॉलो करता हूँ. भोपाल की एक लेडी थी मैम, उसने व्हाट्सएप पे डाला था, मैं फेसबुक पे डाला था कहीं वीडियो अपना. ये जो घर के जो प्लास्टिक के जो लिफाफे होते हैं, या जैसे हम रैपर को काटा, वो इतना सब वो लैंडफिल में चला जाता है. हम गार्बेज में फेंक देते हैं, वो लैंडफिल में चला जाता है, वो रिसाइकल में नहीं जाता. वो नहीं जाता. तो जो प्लास्टिक रिसाइकल में नहीं गया, वो अल्टीमेटली लैंडफिल में जाएगा एंड इट विल रिमेन देयर फॉर मोर देन थाउजेंड्स ऑफ इयर्स. तो उसको प्रिंट करने के लिए उन्होंने क्या कहा था, कहते हैं कि जो खाली फालतू की जो बोतल होती है प्लास्टिक की, उसमें भरते जाओ.
हाँ हाँ, आपने यू शेयर दिस वीडियो.
मैंने आपसे मैंने शेयर किया था, बात भी करी. तो वो मैं अभी भी फॉलो करता हूँ. मैं आपको ना अभी जस्ट सेकंड में दिखाता हूँ.
आई विल स्टॉप शेयरिंग दिस स्क्रीन.
ये देखिए,
राइट.
ये खाली बोतल थी मेरे पास बेकार एक डिटर्जेंट की. तो उसमें मैंने ये सारे जितने भी थे वो सारे ठूस ठूस के भर दिए इसमें, जो भी प्लास्टिक था, है ना. ये बच्चों की लिपस्टिक का कवर और सारा इसमें ठूस ठूस के भर देंगे. बाद में ये जब ये पूरा भर जाएगा, फिर इसको दे देंगे उसको गार्बेज वाले को. अब ये वाली जो बॉटल है ना मैम, प्लास्टिक इसमें जो है, ये रिसाइकल में जाना ही पड़ेगा इसको. राइट, बिल्कुल. This is what we can do at you see at household level to prevent the environmental contamination.
बिल्कुल. मतलब अभी कुछ करने के लिए, कुछ रिजल्ट आने के लिए पहल अपन ने ही करना है,
वही करनी
तो
पड़ेगी।
बिल्कुल घर पे छोटे लेवल पे करना है।
जी जी।
बहुत बड़ा सोच के शायद कुछ कर ही ना पाते हैं,
हाँ हाँ
कुछ
बिल्कुल
इफेक्ट बाहर आते ही नहीं। सो इट्स ऑल फ्रॉम माय एंड।
बड़ा अच्छा
Thank you
लगा
very
मैम,
much.
आपकी टॉक वाज वेरी गुड एंड इट वाज हैविंग सम प्रैक्टिकल यू सी थिंग्स जो हम घर के लेवल पे कर सकते हैं, अपने लेवल पे कर सकते हैं, एंड दैट इज आवर कंट्रीब्यूशन टू द यू सी प्रिवेंटिंग कंटामिनेशन. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. So,
Thank
if
you.
there's any other feedback or suggestion from any participant, please feel free to discuss. ठीक है मैम. So no other
Then
feedback.
thank you. Thank you
so
very
much,
much.
ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So should I leave the meeting?
Yes, ma'am. Can you please?
Thank you so much.
Or you can remain connected. We are having another session at the electronic waste now.
Oh, good. Congratulations for conducting it smoothly, and today is your last session.
Yes, it is last day. This is the second last session now. And Dr. Simranjeet Singh is our electronics engineer. He will be delivering a talk on e-waste, management of e-waste.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So we have Dr. Simranjeet Singh Tiwana from Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering, Punjab University, Patiala. And because environmental contamination is not just limited to, you see, chemicals, industry, agriculture, right? It's not related to air pollution, just not air pollution, not just water pollution, but it is also the pollution due to the electronic gadgets which we use, due to the radiations around us. So for that, we have Dr. Simranjeet Singh Tiwana from Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering from this institute. And I would like to, we would love to hear from him the intricacies, the practical aspects, the you see the health hazards of this electronic waste and how we can manage it. Right, so he's a very, you see, dynamic and very energetic teacher in our fraternity, and we all love him so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Simran. Now
Thank you so much.
it's over to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Good afternoon, sir. Thank you so much for inviting me here. I hope I'll be able to shed some light on the said topic. Just let me share my screen and then I'll start my presentation, sir. So just let me know once it gets shared properly and full screen, just let me know. Sir, can you see it, the presentation? Okay, just a second, I think.
It's a perfect, Simran.
Okay, sir. And my voice is audible, sir?
Yeah, audible.
Okay, sir. Okay, so as sir introduced me, my name is Dr. Simranjeet and I'm here to talk about e-waste management today. So there's a saying that today's electronic gadgets are tomorrow's electronic waste, and I've shown the photographs, in the background. I didn't want to paint a rosy picture because just before this talk, I was actually listening to Deepti ma'am and they were talking about how you can detoxify your body with using cloves and stuff. So I'm just going to show you the opposite picture here and show you what is the current status and where we are at right now with all the gadgets that we are buying every day. So today's electronic gadgets are tomorrow's electronic waste. Now, coming to the definition of e-waste, all electronic and electric components which are unwanted, broken, or discarded are known as electronic waste. So from your end, the day you decide that I don't want this cell phone or I don't want this laptop or iPad, I want a new one, Even though you don't throw it away, you keep it to yourself, you give it to somebody else, from your end it becomes e-waste. It might become useful for somebody else if you give it to somebody. If you keep it in your house, then obviously it will still just keep lying there and be e-waste. E-waste is also known as obviously electronic waste, waste electrical and electronic equipment, or end of life electronics. So all these three different names are used interchangeably for e-waste. In different countries, different notations are used, but the basic idea is the same. So this one thing is that e-waste is kind of a problem which it doesn't have a standard definition throughout the world. So whenever we are talking about e-waste, we first need to kind of realize that which country or which continent we are actually talking about e-waste. For example, in Europe, in the European Union, anything which has a plug or which has a circuit is e-waste. Be it a big appliance, a small appliance, be it a gadget, everything which has a circuit, electronic circuit, is e-waste. USA and Canada, however, on the other end, they say that we will not include white goods like refrigerators, washing machines, microwaves. They say we will not include them as e-waste. Now, why they do that is particularly dependent on their policy. But why do we call them white goods? Because initially, when these big appliances started coming to the market, they were white in color. Dishwashers, washing machines, microwaves, and refrigerators. And in USA, they don't consider them as e-waste. Indian definition from the regulations of 2016, those are the latest regulations which we have in India of e-waste are from 2016, and there have been some amendments, but the major regulations are from 2016. Is very close to the definition of European Union. It almost says the same, that anything which has a circuit is like an e-waste in India as well. So we are closer to the definition of European Union. Now, before I go ahead and delve in deeper into the details and fine details of e-waste, I'd like to show you some pictures so that you can understand the perspective and the extent of the problem that we are facing currently with e-waste. So this is Gaiyu in China. This is also known as the e-waste capital of the world. So there you can see in this picture two children sitting on huge piles of e-waste. The first child is having cables, wires all around him. The second one is sitting on a pile of broken glass, CRTs, and whatnot. These are small children, and these e-waste, which is like wires, they have very hazardous chemicals, components which can affect them. As you already know, because most of the participants here are from pharma or chemical. These children are the most susceptible to these chemicals which are coming out of this e-waste, and Gaiyu in China is the prime example of how e-waste should not be handled. Now, where does all this e-waste come from in Gaiyu? So Gaiyu is on, as you can see, the border of the Republic of China, and it is on the side of United States. So all the e-waste of USA, which they don't process in their own country, they send to Gaiyu just straight away. It's very close to them. It is convenient to them. Chinese people, China, they just want kind of money to work on. So they just accept all this e-waste. Some of it is legal, some of it is not. But all of this dump comes to Gaiyu, and there it is formally or informally processed. These and European countries send their e-waste mostly to Pakistan, India, and Africa. Most polluted country, along with China, for e-waste is Ghana and Nigeria in Africa. India is also not far behind, but we'll talk about that. So here are some pictures for you to understand the perspective. A small child scavenging through heaps of CRTs, circuits, amongst toxic fumes, chemicals, trying to make his bread, make his living. So this is the state of affairs, And this is another picture from again the African continent, and you can see it is not just a landfill. It is not just e-waste. There people are actually setting them on fire, trying to scavenge little bits of precious metals or bits and pieces of material, and in turn they are actually being subject to such harmful toxic fumes from BFRs and lead and mercury and whatnot, like all those hazardous substances. They're inhaling. They've got no gloves, they've got no PPEs, nothing doing. So this is the state of. And now these were the pictures from Africa and China, and I want to also show you the pictures from India. As you can see, a woman, trying to earn her bread, maybe for around 150 to 200 rupees per month, per day, trying to like sort out the e-waste, trying to possibly take out just take this apart. A small child who should be going to school actually working, sitting alongside the circuit boards, having no gloves, having no information about the hazards of what can happen to his overall development, and sitting in heaps and heaps of e-waste. So this should give you a perspective of what is to come in this presentation and why it is so important. So which countries generate the most electronic waste? So obviously, as I just told you, China is a country which produces the most e-waste, and it also imports a lot of e-waste. It produces also and it imports also. United States, it generates the second largest amount of e-waste. But if you see something, just let me turn on my pointer. So if you see something here, this is something to pay your attention, because United States kg per capita of e-waste is much higher than China. So that means a person in USA is producing, per person USA is producing much more e-waste than China is actually doing. India is on fourth, in terms of metric tons. So India has 2 metric tons, but this data is a little bit old. We don't have the latest data because of the COVID, it was affected a little bit. India has 2 metric tons of e-waste, but as you can see per capita, because India is a poor country and a lot of people don't have access to electronic gadgets, so per capita, kg per capita, it's still small in India. So you can see the extent of problem, especially coming from these countries, China, USA, and also the countries which have very high kg per capita like Germany. You can look at 1.4 and you can say, okay, they are producing less e-waste than India. But if you see Germany, per capita is 22.8 as compared to India's 1.5. Now, this was a very informative graph. It is a projected global e-waste based on they've basically extrapolated the data which they have obtained till now, and they've made the kind of predictions as to where the e-waste will be come 2030. Now, the problem was when they made this prediction, they did not take COVID into account. After COVID, for example, they had predicted in this graph that by 2021, we should have 57.4. But actually, due to COVID, e-waste actually increased and we are close to 59 right now. So these projections are even more dangerous, because COVID coming and people beginning to use more e-gadgets is just going to make this problem worse. This side is in metric ton, this side is in kg per capita, but as you can see, the trend is in the same direction. Now, this is a very interesting slide, because this is a research or a survey conducted in the Indian Journal of Occupational and Environmental Medicine. They wanted to know why people dispose their e-waste, right? So in these options, it's new products are cheap, 20%. New products are cheap. Why? Because today we having Flipkarts and Amazons and different websites giving you sales every day. So they make you think that products are cheap. Okay, even if you don't need a product, you feel obliged. If you're getting something for 20-30% off, you want to buy it. It's as simple as that. So it's a byproduct of neo capitalism, but don't want to go into economics today. High repair cost. Earlier in India, there was a very good trend of getting things repaired. If a shoe broke, people would get it repaired. If a TV broke, people would get it repaired. Now, just because the repair cost they find is high and they're getting 20-30% discount on new things, people tend to go for buying new products rather than getting them repaired. And it is not only true for products. If you think clearly, our mentality is changing in terms of relationships also. We don't want to repair anything today. We just want to go and get new things. If you fight with somebody, you are like, okay, we don't want anything to do with this. We just want new. So this is a general mentality, not in terms of products only, but also in terms of relationships also. So we need to mend this. Malfunctioning, obviously, if something is not working properly, so you want to dispose of it. Outdated is fine if something becomes outdated. Now, reasons for outdated are a little bit dubious. I'll talk about that in the next slide. And lifespan, if something's lifespan is over, then obviously you have to discard it. Now, one very important thing is missing from this survey, I feel. Something which is called fashion. today people have a mobile phone. It is inside its working lifespan. Still something new comes in the market. For example, yes, tomorrow new iPhone is going to be launched and you want to go and buy it. It's nothing wrong with your existing gadgets. A new laptop is launched, you want to go and buy it. This is the mentality which has been instilled into us, and it is not healthy at all. So I'll talk about it in the coming slide. So average span versus average lifespan. So this is a very important slide for all of, especially if youngsters are watching and students which actually think in this way. The average lifespan of a cellular smartphone is 5 to 7 years. That means if you buy a new cell phone, it can easily work properly from 5 to 7 years. But according to a recent survey, people replace their phone every 2 years. The average lifespan is 5 to 7, but people replace it after 2 years, while the phone which they discard still has a usable lifespan of 3 to 5 years left. But people will replace it because it is a fashion. And when they were asked why they do it, they said the reasons quoted were advancement of technology, changes in style, fashion, and status. I mean, imagine changing your mobile phone because of changes in style, fashion, and status. Minor damage because of not taking precautions. Because the new thing is cheap, they're not worried if their mobile phone screen breaks or whatever happens. They think, okay, we'll just buy a new one. Okay. And the last is nearing the end of the usable life, which is a perfectly decent reason to change your phone. The first three, I think the first one is also maybe justified, but these, minor damage, you don't want to get it repaired, changes in style and fashion is absolutely not acceptable in terms of e-waste. Now, there are multiple ways to categorize e-waste. I just found the European Union style the best one. I'll also talk a little bit about how India categorizes e-waste later, but let's just have a quick look because I have very little time and I want to get through a lot of things which I want to do in this presentation. So in Europe, e-waste is categorized into 10 different categories. The first is large household appliances, which includes your fridge, your a washing machine, your microwave, your dishwashers, and so on and so forth. So anything which is a big appliance, consumes like 1500 watts, it's part of the large household appliances. And you should notice these large household appliances are not a part of e-waste in USA. In European Union, they are small household appliances. Your press, toaster, juicer, food processor, hair dryers, all they come under the small household appliances category. Third one is IT and telecom. This is the most like the vulnerable and dangerous one. Routers, laptops, iPads, watches, phones, all of these things which today are the most popular come under the IT and telecommunication category. Then we've got photovoltaic panels and consumer equipment like LEDs, transistors, stereo systems, photovoltaic panels, all these come under the consumer equipment and photovoltaic category. Lighting equipment, obviously it's self-explanatory. Lamps, tubes, bulbs, anything related to lighting comes under this category. Then electronic tools, this consists of like drills, sewing machine, chainsaws. So all of them, they come under electronic tools. So they basically categorize them in a very good way, so they can be disposed of in a good way also. Toys and sports. For example, we've got Xbox, PlayStations, video games, kids' toys with remote controls, batteries, remote controlled cars, and all of this falls under this category, toys and sports equipment. Medical devices, obviously everything which is used in hospitals, oxygen concentrators, ventilators, MRI machines, CT scan, X-ray, your ultrasound, and all of these things that fall into the medical devices category. Next is monitoring and control. So you've got thermostats, you've got control panels, you've got smoke alarms, all of these things fall under the monitoring equipment. And the last one is automatic dispensers. So anything which you don't need to kind of touch, to get the output is an automatic dispenser. For example, ATM, you put in your card, the money comes out. Today, the automatic dispensers, sanitizing dispensers are becoming so popular. You just put your hand below them and the sanitizer will come out. So coffee machines and like there's like so many different things which can come under this particular category. So these are the categories of e-waste in the European context. In India, we just categorize into two different parts, ITEW and CEW, which essentially means big appliances and small appliances. So India, the 2016 regulations just categorize into two parts. Okay, so the appliances, devices, they are all the same. Now, this is a very interesting comparison which I want to show you because, how much total e-waste is there in the world today? And this data is old, so it might even be more while we are talking today. I'm showing you here different buildings and comparing their sizes. So here, the Empire State Building is higher than Eiffel Tower, higher than Chrysler Building, and for the context for us Indians, the Statue of Unity is the context. So as you can see, Statue of Liberty, the Big Ben, the Statue of Unity, and then Al Arab, Eiffel Tower, and the Empire State Building in USA. This is the size of the Empire State Building. So Statue of Unity is the largest statue. As you can see, Empire State Building is much higher, much bigger than the Statue of Unity also. Now, how much e-waste is there in the world today? It will take 130 full Empire State Buildings if we want to dispose of today's e-waste. It will take 130 Empire State Buildings. Just let that sink in. And this data is of 2017. And now every year we are increasing by 2 metric ton. So it will approximately, it has already gotten to 140 to 145 Empire State Buildings. Completely fill them up with nothing but e-waste garbage dump, and they will completely fill up 130 in 2017, and today it must be like 145 because 2 metric ton increases every year. So I just told you all the categories of the equipments, like all the categories in European Union. So which of these categories contributes the most to, this is the research by Southampton University in 2020, small equipment. Contrary to belief that mobile phones, iPads, laptops, they contribute the most to the e-waste, actually irons, kettles, toasters, vacuum cleaners, they contribute the most to the e-waste, 37%. That's a global e-waste. It's not just for UK. Southampton University did a research of the entire. I'm not sure what their sample size was, but it was fairly large. So large equipment forms the second one, and this large equipment is not even considered as an e-waste in USA. You look at the context, 22% globally being generated, and they're not even considered as e-waste in the US and Canada. Temperature exchange, which essentially means like your air conditioners, heaters, thermostats, and so on, screens 14%, and small IT, which more people are concerned about, mobiles, laptops, iPads, smartwatches, they're just 9%. But this will increase because they are currently in use. But the small equipment like irons, toasters, they're already being used for so long. So that's the reason the data is skewed a little bit. But the amount at the rate at which small IT is growing is alarming as well. So now let's just get into a little bit into details, because I did not want to go into too much detail about the compositions, chemicals, because I think you're already aware of the harmful effects of chemicals and stuff. So I wanted to give you a different perspective today, but we have to touch upon a little bit. So composition of e-waste. The total global e-waste, according to ASSOCHAM 2018, glass is 37%, forms the total composition. 33% is metals, and 30% is plastics. And we all know how harmful all of them can be, especially plastics and metals. Now in metals, iron forms 52%, because most of the large appliances have a lot of iron. Zinc 3%, copper 18%, aluminium 12%, lead 3%. This is a big number. Lead was a very hazardous substance, especially if it enters the food chain. It can wreak havoc. Lead, and others 12%. Now this is not an exhaustive list of material e-waste. There might be others like arsenic and some other, but I have tried to include most of them because as I told you, I tried to keep my focus on the pertinent issues rather than the specific chemicals and their properties. So hazardous americium, lead, mercury, cadmium, hexavalent chromium, sulfur, brominated flame retardants, which are like a big problem today, PVC, polyvinyl chloride, aluminium, and on the non-hazardous, you have aluminium, copper, germanium, gold, lithium, nickel, silicon, tin, and zinc. Now you have to understand the context. The list has been made not saying that copper is not dangerous. Obviously, copper is also dangerous. It is, it also has very bad health effects. Similarly, lithium. I'm not saying lithium is not dangerous, but it is a threshold. They're both dangerous, but these ones, the ones in the orange box, are more dangerous. That is why they've been placed in the hazardous category. So These are also dangerous, but not as much as compared to the hazardous ones. So I'm just going to discuss a few of them which are more important. I'm not going to touch up on all of them because that would take a lot of time and the time was short. So lead, as you already know, lead acid batteries, rechargeable batteries, CRT monitors, printed circuit boards. Now earlier, today, we've got new solders, but earlier the solders, they used to contain an alloy of tin and lead. And all the old circuit boards on old devices, where are they supposed to go? They're still on the face of this earth, they're still here, and they're causing a lot of problems because they have lead solders. And if you just dispose them off straight away to landfills, they can leach into the underground water. This like cause havoc in the human food chain. So what is the effect of lead? A neurotoxin which affects the kidneys, reproductive system. High quantities can be fatal. It also affects mental development in children. Now, remember those photos I showed you? Small children sitting on top of CRTs, sitting alongside wires, PCBs with no masks, nothing doing, and all those substances, they contain a lot of lead. Brominated flame retardant. Now, have you ever realized your laptops, they get so heated up sometimes, but they don't catch fire. Sometimes you'll touch your laptop and you'll feel that this is so hot, it almost feels like it's on fire, but it never catches fire. It is because of these substances called brominated flame retardants. This type of plastics which are flame retardants, so they don't catch fire, so they protect your devices. So in that sense they are good, but then we are obviously they're using casings, circuit boards, cables, and PVC cables. So now, what are their harmful effects? Combustion of BFRs at lower temperature releases carcinogenic brominated dioxins and furans, which can lead to severe hormonal disorders. I'm sure you already know this, but if you don't properly dispose of these plastics and BFRs, they can wreak havoc. They are carcinogenic, right? Other is cadmium, chromium. Cadmium is generally found in batteries. If you see your computer's motherboard, there's a big round flat cell. That's a nickel cadmium battery which is used. And there's also some other nickel cadmium batteries. For example, if you see your small children's cars which have rechargeable batteries of yellow color, they are mostly nickel cadmium. And we just dispose them off without even thinking how we should deal with such problems, right? We don't realize that the extent of problem. Solders, alloys, circuit boards, computer batteries, and so on. It's also a carcinogen. Long-term exposure causes thigh disease, which causes severe pain in the joints and spine, and so on. So similarly, chromium is used to protect metal from corrosion. I think you already must know that. And if you inhale hexavalent chromium, it can damage the liver and kidneys and cause all sorts of problems. Still we continue to use this, and we are irresponsible in the way we dispose them off. Last one is mercury. I'm not going to cover all of them, I already said that. So it's mercury is used in fluorescent tubes, CCFL, so backlights in the flat screen monitors. And the health effects include sensory impairment, dermatitis, memory loss, muscle weakness, especially for children. Lead, mercury are very, very harmful, and they are still being used. Lead they've replaced. Today's solders which they are coming in the market, they are lead free solders, but that doesn't mean that today lead is not being used for soldering, or the old components where lead was used for soldering have just vanished from the face of the earth. They are still here. They're still here. Yes, any doubts, any questions? I think somebody Hanji, anyone?
We will be having interactive session after the talk. You can continue.
Okay, sir. I thought somebody unmuted themselves, so I thought maybe somebody had a question. Okay, so one non-hazardous substance which I want to talk about is lithium, because now lithium is becoming very, very popular in your mobile phone batteries, your e-vehicles. All of them are moving towards lithium-ion batteries. So lithium is becoming very popular. So we need to understand what are the uses and the harmful effects of lithium also, because just because it is non-hazardous, and I've put it in inverted commas also, it doesn't mean that it doesn't have harmful effects. Lithium, and also needs to be disposed of very carefully. So uses obviously mobile photographic equipment, video equipment in batteries, and e-vehicles also in batteries. It's corrosive to the eyes, skin, and the respiratory tract. It is corrosive on ingestion. Inhalation causes lung edema. So it is obviously like not non-hazardous, but it is less hazardous than the ones I discussed previously. Now, this is one very interesting thing which I think the chemical people would already know. It is called the cocktail effect. We don't have empirical evidence as of what cocktail effect e-waste causes, but what it means is when you're inhaling single chemicals, or when you're ingesting singles, we don't realize, okay, fine, this is not that dangerous. What happens when you ingest or inhale a combination of them? Because there are so many harmful things going into the e-waste. So when you inhale or ingest combination of them, this is called the cocktail effect. So daily cocktails of chemicals has been shown to potentially disrupt hormonal systems, adversely affect reproductive functions, and cause certain types of cancer. So do not only kind of consider these chemicals one by one. They can have a cocktail effect also. Now, let us now talk about how today in the world waste is being dealt with. So this is the waste hierarchy. How to deal with waste? This is a general waste hierarchy, not e-waste hierarchy, but it is true for any kind of waste. The most preferred method till the least preferred method. The most preferred is prevention. That means you do not produce e-waste, which I'm not sure how practical that is in that case. Reuse, that means if you, for example, you are not having something excuse me. So basically, if you're not having any use for a device, you give it to somebody else who uses it. Until its lifespan is there, the device should be reused. That is the second best option. Recycling is obviously the best option to dispose of stuff. If you don't want to dispose, prevention and reuse are the ones which you have to look at. Excuse me. So the next one is recovery. Recovery is the second last one. In recovery, it means you can put them into incinerators, you can put them in proper conditions, you can kind of combust them and convert those, when you light something on fire, you can convert them into electricity, and you can also kind of take out all the useful, for example, gold, copper, aluminium, iron. You can take out these things by after incinerating or by separating them. But this is not a desirable process because incineration itself has a lot of problems, and disposal obviously is the least preferred. Disposal just means you dump it somewhere, create a new landfill, put the e-waste there, and this is such dangerous because there's like lead in batteries, there's like mercury in CRTs, and it leaches and it creates a lot of havoc into the human food chain. We'll come to that later. So for example, this is just an example I wanted to show you before I come to that. So this is a human. He creates e-waste, laptops. You think about how much e-waste we are, like, for example, I'm talking to you here, such irony in this lecture. I'm talking to you online through a computer, connecting to you with a router, through the internet. You're watching on mobile phones, and we're talking about e-waste on topics. So used electronics, human produces e-waste. Now this is discarded because nobody has for it. Now what happens? Either you landfill it or you incinerate it. You can, there's multiple things which can be done in this case. For example, you say, okay, we don't want to let it be in the landfill, you want to treat it. So what do? You put it in incineration. You take it to a company, you combust it. What does combustion do? Mercury, lead, all these harmful chemicals, brominated flame retardants, and so on and so forth, they come into the air. They contaminate your air. The slag. Now this slag, how you also know, and we also realize in India how many people are actually properly disposing of the slag. They just put them into the natural water resources and hope for the best. Hoping for the best is not going to work. You have to treat it properly. If slag is not treated properly, there's no point. Then let them be in the landfills. Why are you treating them and putting them into freshwater sources? It is one in the, and then when they come into the air, or they come into the ground by leaching, and they are consumed. We are growing our food, our rice, our paddy, our wheat ground. We are landfilling stuff, we are incinerating stuff, and we are kind of growing our food and crops on the same land. So the amount, India's exports have so many times been rejected because the volumes or the quantity of heavy metals, lead sometimes was twice that was required. That is the fact of the matter. Now this comes into the plants, it again comes back to you. Into the air, it again comes back to you. So don't think that only the workers or people working in those factories or informally working to treat e-waste are the ones which are getting affected. Indirectly, all this e-waste is coming back to you. Vegetables, fruits, air. Nowadays what happens in Punjab, 2 months we are hardly able to breathe. In Corona, we were finding it hard to wear N95 masks. Punjab is 2 months when there's paddy season, alongside people start burning their waste. It is absolutely becoming very hard to breathe in Punjab for those 2 months. That is the reality of the state. Now, what is the life cycle of electronics? How do we deal with electronics? What happens to the electronics? You are only here, you are the consumers. So manufacturer produces, they put beautiful ads on screens, they'll put Amazon sales and so on and so forth. They'll sell the stuff to you because that is the principle of new capitalism. Make stuff that gets old quickly so that you are forced to buy new stuff. Create more demand, less supply. You go onto Amazon, what happens? You want to order something from Amazon. What does Amazon say? Only two things are left. You place the order, again still two things are left. So they're just trying to create a false demand, by reducing the supply. So manufacturers, retailers, and these are us people, we people, the consumers. We use the mobiles 2 years, 3 years. Some people are more aware, 4 years, and later on new games, new apps, new things come which are not running on your old phone. Sometimes companies like Apple, what they do, they give a software update to kind of make your phone slow, so you're forced to buy a new phone. That is the policy of some of these companies. There was a big case in the USA regarding to that. Now what you do, once you are done with, once according to you your stuff has become e-waste, what do? You give it to a secondary user, right? Secondary user, you can give it to a relative, you can give it to somebody else who wants to use it. Okay, that is put to decent use, at least for the time being, if it still has some lifespan. Or you just put it in your house, you do nothing. You don't give it to a recycler, you don't put it into a garbage dump, you just put it into a drawer. For example, your mobile phone, you are scared somebody will steal my photos, somebody will recover my data. So there's multiple reasons. You put it in your drawer and it is done. It is just lying there, getting converted to e-waste for the future. There's nothing productive happening there, right? Refurbishers, they refurbish. Recyclers, obviously they try to recycle. There are two types of recyclers. We'll talk about informal and formal, and then there are collectors, which are also doing the same thing, trying to dispose of e-waste by formal or informal methods. And then you give it to straight away to waste management. That means you have a battery, you have a mobile phone, you put it in a garbage dump. You don't give it to a proper company. You don't give it back to the company. You don't exchange it on Amazon. You give it straight, you put it straight in the garbage bin. Where does it go? It goes to the landfills. It goes to the incinerators. It is even more dangerous. So you should remember, you use a AA battery. What do? You put it in the garbage dump. People who are separating the garbage, they know nothing. They put it straight with the normal waste. There it is incinerated. It is like so many problems are happening, and we don't even realize inadvertently we are contributors to this. So how do we deal with waste? Sorry. Yeah. So how do we deal with e-waste? We landfill, we incinerate, and we can export. For example, countries like USA, Canada, the advanced countries, so-called advanced countries, they don't want to keep their e-waste. So what do? They export. How do they export? They will say to the African countries, okay, we want to help you with your education in your schools. We have few old computers lying with us. We want to donate them to you. You see the game here? They are not saying that we are giving you e-waste. They are saying there are 2 years of my life cycle of a computer left, and they are saying, okay, we are donating to you so your children can study. Inadvertently, they are just dumping their e-waste to Africa, to Gayu in China, to India. So I mean, these advanced countries, they are just delaying their problem. They don't realize one day the fight will come to their own door, and then they'll have to deal with it. So it is better, and everybody is now becoming like the Basel Convention happened. Now India started having its own e-waste rules. So things are happening, but slowly. I'll talk about that. So landfills just mean a garbage dump of e-waste. Incinerators means you put something on fire. You export it and you're just delaying the problem. This is not solving the problem, you're delaying the problem. And the last is you recycle and refurbish, which are two of the best things. अब मेरे को ये बताओ, Amazon के ऊपर हम कोई चीज खरीदने जाते हैं, वहां पे refurbished, we get refurbished stuff there. How many of us buy it? We see it, okay, it is cheaper 40% from the original stuff, we will not buy it. You know, I think Amazon has to do a little bit more to make them more cheap, but we are also have to make our minds open, not only with this philosophy we only have to buy new things. We can also buy refurbished stuff. On Amazon it is available. They are trying to recycle, but if nobody consumes it, if there is no demand, there will be no supply, they will stop refurbishing. You have to understand the whole cycle of economics also. You know, economies of scale only work if there is demand and supply. So I hope the life cycle of electronics is clear. Now let us move to the e-waste treatment methods. I already talked about these 4 methods: landfilling, incineration, reuse, and recycling. Out of these 4, you already should know that reusing is the best. If you can reuse them, as long as you can reuse them, you are, you know, your electronic gadget does not become e-waste. So reuse them. Recycling is obviously the next best solution. Incineration and landfilling, I'll show you why they are not good. So first of all, landfilling. A landfill is what? A dumping ground or a garbage dump. अपने सबने देखा होगा अपने अपने सिटीज के अंदर बड़े बड़े गार्बेज डंप होते हैं, तो जो लैंडफिल हम ई वेस्ट का बोलते हैं, दैट इज जस्ट ई वेस्ट डंप. यू नो, ऑब्वियसली प्लास्टिक्स, पॉलिथीन सब मिक्स ही होते हैं उसके अंदर भी. सो लैंडफिलिंग इज द ओल्डेस्ट एंड द मोस्ट कॉमन फॉर्म ऑफ वेस्ट disposal, although systematic burial only started in the 1940s. Basically, e-waste ending up in landfills is a toxic time bomb. वो जो आप क्या कर रहे हो, उसको लैंडफिल के अंदर, you are just putting it into a landfill. You are just expecting कि if we are not, like for example, pigeon closing its eyes after seeing the cat. You are saying, okay, it is in the landfill. It is not in my house. That is not the way to deal with the problem. That is not going to solve the problem. That is just delaying your problem. It will come back to you. That landfill is in your city. That landfill is in your state. The you know, their lead, mercury, all these, you know, arsenic and you know what not, and they are leaching into the underground water. They are leaching, and the people are burning it, incinerating it. We'll come to that also. And that is coming back to your houses in terms of food, vegetables, fruits. And then you are saying कि cancer बढ़ गया जी. Cancer तो बढ़ना ही है. For example, we are not dealing with this stuff. We are just हम अपने घर से उसको निकाल के सोचते हैं कि हमारा काम हो गया जी. No, this is not the way. We have to be aware ourselves also. So also e-waste, landfilling brings informal scavengers. गरीब बच्चे, they go to those dumps, you know, छोटे से पैसे के लिए, bread कमाने के लिए, bare hands, without any PPE kits, they try to scavenge through the, क्योंकि landfill जहां करोगे उसको dump कर दोगे तो वहां पे कोई तो जाएगा उसको to sift that out, to scavenge that. And small children whose growth, whose mental development, reproductive development is being affected, CRT टूट जाता है, sulfur के fumes आते हैं. Who is responsible? Because we are not dealing with it properly. Landfills is not a solution. Look at a landfill in Africa. You see, it is on the side of a water source. You see, like CRTs are lying inside water. The water, like the, you know, the lead is in the CRT monitor. It is leaching into the water. It is going into the underground water. All the toxins are coming back to you from the underground water. You are thinking, okay, it is far away from my house. I don't care. This is not the way. Another example of a landfill. Look at the extent of dump. You know, हमें ये दिखता नहीं है, हम सोचते हैं कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, चलता रहेगा, ऐसे नहीं चलेगा. These are problems which have to be dealt with. Another landfill. Look at GIAN, China. Look at the landfill. You see water source. You see lots of polythenes mixed with CRTs, mixed with PCBs, and those PCBs have lead solders. You know, gold plated. थोड़ा gold plated के लिए उसको burn करते हैं, वो छोटा सा gold निकालने के लिए. These are the problems which are happening now. Actual landfilling, which is supposed to be done in foreign countries, it is not that USA doesn't have landfills. USA also has landfills, but their landfills are more sophisticated. What do? They have a landfill liner. वो यहाँ पे लगाते हैं कि उसमें से लीच करके कुछ जाए ना. उसके बाद उन्होंने ग्राउंड वाटर मॉनिटरिंग के लिए सिस्टम भी लगाया होता है कि लीचेट कोई अंदर तो नहीं जा रहा, जो इसमें से ई वेस्ट में से लीच करके तो जाएगा ही नीचे. तो दे हैव मल्टीपल वेज. एंड जो गैसेस प्रोड्यूस होती हैं फर्मेंटेशन के बाद, जो मिथेन फर्मेंटेशन के बाद, उसको निकालने का भी प्रोविजन है. सो दे आर land filling also properly. India में, China में, Ghana में, there's no proper land filling. There's just dumping it and hitting and hoping कि हो जाएगा जी. ऐसे नहीं होगा. You have to deal with it. You know, USA, foreign countries are also doing land filling, but they are at least more advanced as compared to what we are doing. We have to become conscious. ये ऐसा नहीं होगा कि हम सोच रहे हैं कि ये अपने आप हो जाएगा. ये हम ही लोगों को करना पड़ेगा. ठीक है. Next is incineration. Now incineration is just in simple terms burning of the e-waste. So what is done in the industry, incineration is done at a very high temperature, 900 to 1000 degree, in a controlled and a complete combustion process. Advantage क्या होता है, मैंने आपको पहले भी बताया था कि you can generate electricity, ठीक है, you can reduce the e-waste, you can also scavenge some of the materials, you know, but the problem is emission of hazardous gases like cadmium and mercury into the air. जब आप उसको जलाते हो तो mercury और cadmium go into the air. Heavy metals are transferred to slag, which not properly disposed can cause serious health issues. You know, they are going into the slag. पंजाब में तो आपको पता ही है बही नदी का क्या हाल था. Sichewal ji has cleared it. He has spent his entire life clearing it. You know, it was absolutely black. That was slag, not exactly e-waste, but it was still waste. So incinerations in companies also problematic. As you can see, the fumes of gases coming out. फिल्टर्स कभी ठीक से वो करते हैं, कभी नहीं करते हैं. मर्करी जो आ जाता है, लेड आ जाता है, और पता नहीं कितने हार्मफुल ब्रोमिनेटेड जो रिटार्डेंट है, फ्लेम रिटार्डेंट, उसको जला देते हैं. इतने सारे हार्मफुल केमिकल्स जो हैं वो हवा के अंदर वो रिलीज कर देते हैं. सो इंसिनरेशन इज द शुड बी द लास्ट मेथड. पहले रीयूज और रिसाइकिल पे हमें फोकस करना चाहिए. और उससे भी बड़ी प्रॉब्लम जो मैं आपको दिखाना चाहता हूँ, कंपनी में तो फिर क्या है, वो जो पीपीई किट पहन के करते हैं, फिर भी उन्होंने फिल्टर लगाए होते हैं थोड़े बहुत स्लैग को डिस्पोज ऑफ करने के लिए. चलो हम बोलते हैं कि एटलीस्ट रूल है, इफ दे आर फॉलोइंग और नॉट इज अ सेपरेट इशू. एटलीस्ट गवर्नमेंट ने रूल तो बनाया ना. इन लोगों के लिए, बेचारों के लिए देखो क्या रूल है. दिस पर्सन इन घाना, इनफॉर्मल बर्निंग ऑफ ई वेस्ट. लुक एट फ्लेम्स, look at no mask, no gloves, nothing, trying to leach small stuff by burning of e-waste, burning of PCBs, burning of wires. उसमें क्या थोड़ा सा गोल्ड निकल आएगा क्योंकि ब्रास के पॉइंटर्स होते हैं, उसमें थोड़ा गोल्ड प्लेटिंग की होती है, उसके लिए लीच करते हैं. ठीक है. और सबसे बड़ी प्रॉब्लम क्या है कि जब ये कंपनी के अंदर जब वो जलता है तो एटलीस्ट सारा खत्म तो हो जाता है. ये तो अपना लीच करके बाकी जो होता है वो फिर वो लैंडफिल में फेंक देते हैं. इनफॉर्मल बर्निंग ऑफ e-waste. Look, small child might be like 8-9 years old. Look, burning, informal burning, no mask, no PPE, nothing doing, just burning, standing with wood and hitting. Now we come to the good solution of e-waste. You know, so what is recycling of e-waste? Recycling is the reuse and reprocessing of electrical and electronic equipment that has been discarded or regarded as obsolete. This is the best method. You know, step by step, how do we do recycling? First, we transport the goods to the factory, then we sort them and shred them. I'll show you the pictures of shredder in the coming slide. Then we do dust extraction. बहुत तेज हवा से हम उसको डस्ट को एक्सट्रैक्ट करते हैं, पार्टिकल्स को एक्सट्रैक्ट करते हैं, फिर मैग्नेटिक सेपरेशन करते हैं. फॉर एग्जांपल, एक के अंदर फाइबर और मेटल दोनों है, तो उनको अगर मैनुअली तो हम सेपरेट कर नहीं सकते. इफ दे हैव बीन रिड्यूस्ड टू पाउडर, तो हम क्या करते हैं, हम मैग्नेट्स लगा देते हैं. तो जो मेटल्स होते हैं वो सारे मैग्नेट्स की तरफ चले जाते हैं, जो फाइबर होता है वो सीधा निकल जाता है और वो प्रॉपर्ली सेपरेट हो जाता है. ठीक है. सो इट इज 100% सक्सेसफुल सेपरेशन. एंड देन देयर इज वाटर सेपरेशन. उसके बाद उसको प्यूरिफाई कर देते हैं. जो हमारा वेस्ट प्रोड्यूस हुआ है इसको करने से, उसको हम प्यूरिफाई कर देते हैं. प्रॉपर्ली फिल्टर्स लगे होते हैं. सारी जो स्लैग प्रोड्यूस होती है उसको हम बिल्कुल प्यूरिफाई कर देते हैं. एंड देन जो रिसाइकल्ड मटेरियल होता है हम उसको सेल कर देते हैं. सो दिस इज नॉट अ फुल प्रूफ मेथड, आई एम टेलिंग यू, बिकॉज मल्टीपल, हमारे प्रॉब्लम क्या है ह्यूमंस के अंदर, प्रोसेस है लेकिन फिल्टर को रिप्लेस नहीं किया जी. स्लैग जो प्रोड्यूस हो रहा है वो खराब है, वो जा रहा है, हैवी मेटल वैसे के वैसे जाए जा रहे हैं. ठीक है. हमने किसी ना किसी लेवल के ऊपर वी हैव टू पे अटेंशन आल्सो, बट दिस इज द थर्ड बेस्ट प्रोसेस ऑफ, इफ वी कांट स्टॉप यूजिंग देम, प्रिवेंट नहीं कर सकते, रीयूज नहीं कर सकते, तो कम से कम रिसाइकल तो हमारे पास होना. इसीलिए मैंने इसके जो बॉक्सेस भी ग्रीन में बनाए हैं कि ये थोड़ा इको फ्रेंडली मेथड है. अब रिसाइकलिंग दो तरह की होती है. देयर आर टू टाइप्स ऑफ रिसाइकलिंग, फॉर्मल एंड इनफॉर्मल. दिस इज द, आई थिंक, द बिगेस्ट प्रॉब्लम विद रिसाइकलिंग. ठीक है. रिसाइकलिंग जो कंपनीज में होती है, आई हैव नो प्रॉब्लम, दे आर डूइंग फाइन. द प्रॉब्लम इज इन इंडिया, according to the 2011 Rajya Sabha report, 95% of recycling in India is informal. तो हम, if we try to count Formal recycling, no problem. Formal recycling is good, but हो कितनी रही है? That is also a fact that we need to pay our attention to. So, what is problem with informal recycling? Generally, the poor are employed. Poor people are employed who have no formal training. उनको पता नहीं है कि hazards क्या है, उनको पता नहीं कैसे करना है. Most of the work is carried out with bare hands, no protection like masks, gloves, cleaning, crushing, कुछ नहीं. Bare hands के साथ, ठीक है, लकड़ी के साथ आग लगा के लो टेम्परेचर के ऊपर कंबस्ट करते हैं. वर्कर्स सिट इन बैडली, जहां पे थोड़ा बहुत उनके पास कोई कमरे वगैरह उनको इनफॉर्मल रिसाइकलर्स ने क्रिएट करके दिए हैं, ना तो वो वेंटिलेटेड होते हैं, ना वो लिट होते हैं, ना ही उनको कोई मास्क दिए जाते हैं. दे जस्ट वर्किंग लाइक दिस. एंड देन वी आर आस्किंग कि क्यों हमारे मतलब बठिंडा में से कैंसर ट्रेन चलती है, क्यों इंडिया में कैंसर बढ़ रहा है. Yeah, we have to realize what is happening. Most of the workers are uneducated, neither aware nor they are made aware. जो लोग उनसे काम करवाते हैं, अगर उनको बता देंगे, ठीक है, कि आपको तो ये चीजें हो रही हैं, तो हो सकता है वो सोचेंगे कोई और काम कर लें. तो ना तो उनको पता है, ना ही उनको बताया जाता है इस चीज के बारे में कि आपके लिए क्या हैजर्ड है जो आप काम कर रहे हो. Women and children constitute a significant part of the labor force. Children are future generation, coming generations, which we are so concerned about, which we want to educate. They are, a lot of them are part of this. Now I want to show you कि जो formal और informal waste के process में क्या फर्क होता है, और वहां पे कंपनी में कितने अच्छे से होता है, और informal में how it is not that good. You can see proper transportation, पैक होके CRTs आ रही हैं, कोई ग्लास टूटा नहीं हुआ, कोई सल्फर फ्यूम्स नहीं है. They bring them properly in trucks and properly transport them. इनफॉर्मल क्या करते हैं, लैंडफिल में से जाके स्कैवेंज भी करते हैं, या फिर जो आपको कोई डंप आता भी है उसमें से आधी टूटी होती है. फॉर एग्जांपल, दिस स्मॉल बॉय इज ट्राइंग टू पिक अप अ सीआरटी or a monitor. How do we know its glass is not broken? How do we know it doesn't have sulfur fumes? He doesn't have any knowledge, he doesn't have any protection. Look, water everywhere, it is leaching into the groundwater also. So this is second. Company में जाते हैं, they are separating them. These workers, proper workers, they've got toolkits, they are wearing helmets, they are wearing masks, they are wearing kits and gloves also. They are being separated properly. CRT को अलग कर लेते हैं, ग्लास को अलग कर लेते हैं, पीसीबी को अलग कर लेते हैं. ये देखो ये बच्चा क्या कर रहा है. मैंने आपको, I showed you the photo of this small child before also. This is sitting trying to separate components with his bare hands. How is this going to work? CRT से तोड़ के component निकाल रहा है, पीसीबी निकाल रहा है. जब CRT को तोड़ते हैं, उसके अंदर मर्करी भी होती है, उसके अंदर सल्फर भी होती है. CRT means cathode ray tube, for anybody who is not acquainted. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention. Now this, अब इसमें से PCB निकल गया. अब PCB का official, what is the recycling procedure of PCB? Look, waste PCB is shredded, it is crushed, and then it is grinded. After that, there's a dust collector, air separator, and I already told you electrostatic separator, in which you have two materials, metal and fiber. It is separated by forces of magnetism. So it is 100% successful machine, no problems. And the dust, the particle dust is properly collected. The slag which is produced is also properly disposed of and treated. Right? This is the proper process. India में क्या होता है? 95% is informal. कैसे करते हैं? ये देखो, ये एक गैस सिलेंडर से इन्होंने सोर्स लगा रखा है, and he is actually heating PCBs without, उसके पास कुछ नहीं है, उसको PCB बोलते हैं. What is he doing? He is heating them, trying to extract some gold plated, उसके अंदर brass pointer लगे होते हैं, उसको extract करने के लिए कोई component, कोई capacitor देखेंगे, कोई चल रहा है नहीं चल रहा, मतलब छोटी छोटी चीजें निकालने के लिए they are like doing informal recycling. Same with this, he's using hammer. Can you believe? He's using hammer to break the PCBs. Recycling. उसके बाद क्या होता है, जो basically the dump which is left, that is again thrown to the landfills. तो इसमें informal recycling में किसका फायदा हुआ? किसी का भी फायदा नहीं हुआ. इनकी थोड़ी बहुत रोजी रोटी बन गई, लेकिन अगर हम रियलाइज कर लें, इसके अंदर इतना वेल्थ बन सकता है. वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट के अंदर आप प्लांट, अगर अच्छा सा प्लांट लगाओ, लोगों को काम पे रखो, पीसीबी रिसाइकलिंग और ई वेस्ट रिसाइकलिंग कैन क्रिएट अमाउंट ऑफ वेल्थ. People's waste will become your gold. People's waste can become your gold if people realize, set up e-waste plants, but stop this informal recycling, or at least give them proper training. This is not the way they are exposed. Now, last two slides. I'll come to the end of my presentation because I had 1 hour. I think I'm almost close to my time. I want to finish. So this is a study from Agbo Bloshi in Ghana. वहां पे जाके लोगों ने स्टडी किया ठीक है, क्या पता लगा कि एक्रा के अंदर वहां पे वर्ल्ड की सबसे बड़ी डंपिंग साइट है ई वेस्ट के लिए। डंपिंग कैसे होती है, या तो यूएसए, कंप्यूटर, कनाडा बोल के कि आपको, या फिर वो डंप खरीद लेते हैं थोड़े से पैसों के अंदर, उनकी गवर्नमेंट की पॉलिसीज इतनी अच्छी नहीं है, सो थोड़े से पैसों के अंदर वो डंप परचेज कर लेते हैं, ठीक है, और वो डंप हो जाता है। तो टेस्ट्स किए गए, tests were carried out in the area have shown the levels of lead in the soil are twice as high as those allowed by US EPA, Environment Protection। So मतलब लेड की जो क्वांटिटी सॉइल के अंदर, आप हवा तो चलो बात की बात है, सॉइल जिसके अंदर आपने प्लांट्स उगाने हैं, क्रॉप्स उगाने हैं, आपने खाना खाना है, उसके अंदर लेड की जो क्वांटिटी है वो ट्वाइस हो चुकी है एक पूरे शहर के अंदर, एग्बोब्रोशी के अंदर। Analysis of breast milk from mothers have found higher than normal levels of toxic compounds जो ओल्ड इलेक्ट्रॉनिक इक्विपमेंट के अंदर मिलते हैं, वो मदर की फीड के अंदर आना शुरू हो गया, एग्बोब्रोशी के अंदर। हम अपनी आने वाली जनरेशन को क्या दे रहे हैं, हमें सोचना पड़ेगा। ये जो एग्बोब्रोशी की फोटो आप देख सकते हो कि एग्बोब्रोशी के अंदर क्या हो रहा है, वर्ल्ड का सबसे बड़ा डंप है सिटी के अंदर। तो ये गायू के अंदर क्या हो रहा है, वन स्टडी ऑन द एनवायरमेंटल इफेक्ट्स इन गायू एयरबॉर्न डायोक्सिन्स, one type was found at 100 times the level। पहले जितनी थी उससे 100 गुना ज्यादा बढ़ गई आपकी जो डायोक्सिन थी, एयरबॉर्न डायोक्सिन। लेवल ऑफ कार्सिनोजन जो डक के पॉन्ड थे, पहली बात तो गायू बहुत अच्छा सिटी होता था, आप इसकी हिस्ट्री पढ़ना, it used to be a very beautiful city with paddy fields, with duck ponds, very like a peaceful place, people living, doing their own, like, you know, growing, eating and living peacefully। As soon as this dump started coming in, the level of carcinogens in duck ponds and rice paddies exceeded international standards for agricultural areas, and cadmium, copper, nickel, lead in rice paddies were above international standards। तो उनके जो चावल हैं उनका टेस्ट किया गया, उनके अंदर कितने कितने गुना ज्यादा जो है हमारी hazardous substances पाई गई। Think what we are creating, heavy metals found in the road dust। जो सड़क के किनारे जो मिट्टी होती है, हम जिसमें हमने बच्चों को, कई बार हमारे छोटे होते हैं हम खेलते थे सड़क के किनारे, मिट्टी में खेलते थे, ग्राउंड में जाके मिट्टी से खेलते थे, तो रोड डस्ट जो है उसके अंदर lead over 300 times and copper over 100 times। This is the state what we are creating, this is the world we are creating for our future generations। We have to think, we have to think। This is another photo, look at people just scavenging, wires पे लगे हुए हैं, they're trying to scavenge little what they can। उसमें retardants भी हैं, brominated flame retardants भी हैं, उसके अंदर वही same CRT monitors, lead भी है। This like and a small girl in Gayu, China, you know, showing I don't know what Apple device she has in her hand, and you know, at the back you can see CPUs, CRTs, monitors, wires। So the final thoughts, finally I come to the end, you know, I'm so basically our government, especially I'm talking about India now, they're encouraging young entrepreneurs they've started a lot of schemes for young people, young entrepreneurs कि e-waste management के प्लांट खोलो, उनको इंसेंटिव भी देते हैं, परफॉर्मेंस लिंक्ड इंसेंटिव बोलते हैं, PLIs भी देते हैं उनको, कहते हैं कि आप करो, और उसके लिए गवर्नमेंट सपोर्ट कर रही है। दूसरा, गवर्नमेंट ने एक नई चीज की थी 2016 के अंदर, व्हेन द रेगुलेशंस केम फॉर ई-वेस्ट, दे सेड कि एक्सटेंडेड प्रोड्यूसर रिस्पांसिबिलिटी होनी चाहिए। दे सेड कि जो प्रोड्यूस कर रहे हैं इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स और इलेक्ट्रिकल इक्विपमेंट, उनकी जिम्मेवारी लगाई जानी चाहिए, दे शुड बी रिस्पांसिबल फॉर डिस्पोजिंग ऑफ सम ऑफ द ई-वेस्ट, एंड बाय द ईयर द परसेंटेज ऑफ द ई-वेस्ट व्हिच दे आर रिक्वायर्ड टू काइंड ऑफ डील विद इज इंक्रीजिंग। सो गवर्नमेंट इज ट्राइंग टू शिफ्ट द burden of e-waste on the people who are actually selling, जो पैसा कमा रहा है फोन बना के, इलेक्ट्रॉनिक सर्किट बना के, उसी को बोलते हैं कि डिस्पोज ऑफ करने की रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी भी आप उठाओ। जैसे अमेजोन में एक्सचेंज की पॉलिसी चलती है, या आप जो कंपनी से खरीदते हो आप उसको रिसाइकिल कर सकते हो, हम करते नहीं है। हमें फील क्या होता है, हमने 50,000 का लैपटॉप लिया जी, 10 साल 7 साल चला लिया, वो खराब हो गया, अब हमें फ्री में उसको रिसाइकिल करने का हमारा मन नहीं करता, हम कहते हैं हम इतने महंगा लिया तो हम क्यों ले, घर में हम रख के रखते हैं उसको कुछ नहीं होता, उसका घर पे पड़ा पड़ा वो खराब हो जाता है, लेकिन हम रिसाइकिल करते नहीं है, बिकॉज हमारी इनिशियल इन्वेस्टमेंट हमारे दिमाग के अंदर रहती है। अब ये भी तो सोचो कि जो मोबाइल हमने 5 साल यूज कर लिया, जो लैपटॉप हमने 7 साल यूज कर लिया, ठीक है, अगर उसको आप ठीक करवा के यूज कर सकते हो तो कर लो। अगर आपने उसको कभी यूज ही नहीं करना, किसी को देना भी नहीं यूज करने के लिए, घर पे रखे रखना है, तो इज इट नॉट बेटर टू एटलीस्ट गेट इट रिसाइकल्ड? वी हैव टू थिंक अबाउट आवर प्रायोरिटीज, दैट इज ऑल्सो वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट। द लास्ट पॉइंट, of this presentation. Along with everything else, it is also the responsibility of individuals to be sensitive towards our Mother Earth and make sure that we leave it a better place. हमारे ancestors ने, हमारे पूर्वजों ने इतनी सुंदर धरती हमारे लिए छोड़ी थी, और आप सोचो कि हम अपनी आने वाली generations के लिए what are we leaving, what is happening? So please think about it and try to recycle waste, try to buy responsibly. And the last, I would like to thank everybody for listening patiently. Earth provides enough to satisfy everyone's need, but not every man's greed, said by the great Mahatma Gandhi. So thank you very much for listening patiently. If you have any questions, I just wanted to give you an overview of the situation. I don't want to paint a rosy picture in front of you कि सब कुछ अच्छा है जी, सब कुछ अच्छा हो जाएगा. I wanted to show you the actuality कि क्या आज की डेट में हो रहा है. So if anybody has any doubts, I'd be happy to take them. Thank you very much.
There is a query from Madhura Dikshit. Yes, Madhura ji, please.
Hello, sir, am I audible?
Yes.
Okay, sir, it was a very nice presentation. I got to know many new things. What I wanted to ask is, we have seen a lot of initiatives where, like local initiatives where NGOs have collected, gave a call about collecting e-waste and all.
Yes,
but the collection points and all are really not that, into mainstream. Like, even if I want to do something about it, I don't understand where do I go. So what can a common man do, even if like you have the motivation to be very careful about disposal of e-waste, you don't get the right connections and links. So what can we do for it?
Ma'am, that is absolutely true. Actually, the thing is, I was going to add like a link. What I'll do is there's a link where in India there's like actually a very few official recyclers which actually collect these things. So right now the situation is improving, but it is not at the point where in every small cities which we can like get opportunity to kind of recycle. But if you go to the companies, for example, if you're having a phone, you go to their service center. For example, you want to discard a phone, you go to the service center. There always they will have a place where you can recycle it. If you have a laptop, you go to the Dell service center. There they will provide you with a proper. They'll have a channel. They'll give you a form. You can fill it and recycle it properly. So for now, the best opportunity for us Indians to recycle is to go to the respective companies from which we bought those things, and their service centers will have for recycling. But I know this is not ideal, because ideally अगर आप dispose of करना चाहते हो तो आपके घर से या किसी point से pick up होना चाहिए. But things are improving, ma'am. Hopefully soon we'll have these kinds of
not even point pickup. I mean, I'm not expecting that much also, but at least a common area where you can drop. Like, I cannot go to 4 companies and give this, no. So 4 people in a house, 3 mobiles, I mean old mobiles, 2 laptops, so many things. That's why.
Absolutely understand your point. Actually, government is trying a lot, ma'am, especially since the 2016. India के अंदर मैम 19 मतलब अगर आप देखोगे 2000 से पहले properly कोई regulations legislation ही नहीं था e-waste के साथ deal करने के लिए. So now we are improving. 2011 में राज्यसभा की एक 127 pages की बहुत बड़ी report publish हुई थी, which was researched by the IIT people, and then they accepted the problem. 2016 में बड़ी stringent जो regulations आई हैं, जो मैंने आपको बताया EPR है, they are telling the companies only, हर साल उनकी परसेंटेज इंक्रीज हो जाती है कि इस साल आपने इतनी परसेंट जो है अपने जो चीज सेल की है वो आपने रिसाइकल करवानी है उतने परसेंट ही. सो इन द फ्यूचर थिंग्स आर गेटिंग बेटर मैम. इफ यू लुक एट द ग्राफ, जो थिंग्स बाय कर रहे हैं वो तो बढ़ ही रही हैं, लेकिन थोड़ी थोड़ी मैम रिसाइकलिंग भी बढ़नी शुरू हो गई है. तो देखो, मैंने आपको बहुत ग्रिम प्रेजेंटेशन दिखाई है, तो इन दी एंड आई विल जस्ट से दैट वी आर होपफुल दैट थिंग्स विल इंप्रूव.
So you say there is hope, right?
Absolutely, ma'am. We have to, ma'am. Otherwise, हमारे पास एक ही धरती है, मैम. एक ही मतलब उसको हम कैसे कह दें हमारे उसके लिए होप नहीं है, फिर तो मैम ऐसे चलेगा नहीं ना. हम होप तो रखनी पड़ेगी.
Thank you so much.
Welcome, ma'am. Welcome. Thank you.
So if there is any other query or any feedback or any suggestion from any other participant. The session was very good, Simran. Really appreciate the efforts you have put to show us the real picture of e-waste. And 1 hour, as you said in the beginning, that 1 hour is enough, but I think even 2 hours are not enough for this.
Sir, I also actually yesterday night, when I was finalizing my presentation, I was thinking I'll go to the presentation and I'll show all these participants all these grim pictures, they'll think that everything is doom and gloom. So how can I like put a little bit of a balance on things? But I thought I should show the real picture only. You should not like kind of paint in the end paint a rosy picture or a fake picture.
Picture is actually not rosy. Picture is not
Yes,
rosy.
absolutely.
The thing is, yes, problem is there. We all know it. And as Madhuraji said that all of us don't know where to approach if there is any, any outlet where we can dispose of these things in a safe way, in a formal way. And
Sure.
this discussion, this is a presentation. It has actually
Yes.
opened a new avenue for every one of us that where we can, this is actually a new entrepreneur idea, which can be started, right?
Absolutely.
From the starting from the collection point of view, then to supplying to the industries, or maybe setting up its own recycling units.
The government is helping you, sir. They are providing performance-linked incentives, also schemes. Also, they are telling young entrepreneurs कि आप शुरू करो, हम आपके साथ हैं. मतलब they are wanting people to do it, sir.
That's good. That's good. So thank you so much, Simran. There is no other query from any participant, and it was a very, 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 very informative. One of the most excellent talks I have seen during the course. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for inviting me, sir. It was my pleasure. Thank you very much.
Okay. So, dear participants, now we will rejoin at 2 o'clock, where Professor Yolanda will be having a final session, a tutorial on geographical information system. So from 2 to 4, she will be having that session, and thereafter we'll be having a assessment session of 40 minutes. And I will share that Google form on your emails, which you have shared in the Excel sheet on the Google form for registration. So kindly check your emails at 3:55 p.m. Wish you all the best. And till then, have a great lunch. Thank you so much. Thank you, Simran.
Thank you, sir.